Pirate God Level Cartoonist, Chapter 281-300. Chapter 281 Science. Science. Half a month later, the Institute's underground test site. Luo stood in the center of the test field, with circular spacers attached to his body. On top of the spacers, there was a metal wire connected to the instrument group in the distance. Dozens of large and small metal instruments were transported here, and Ailia, Tianjing Yasheng, Vegapunk and others gathered together and worked together nervously. In addition, there are nearly 100 artificial human beings with developed brains assisting around the scene, and the scene is very lively. Sir, it's time to start, Ioria shouted to Roha after adjusting the last machine. Understood. Roha nodded. Then, he closed his eyes slightly, took a deep breath, and exhaled slowly. When Roha opened his eyes, the aura of the whole person suddenly cooled down. Open black lens bracket absolutely calm close black lens bracket. At the same time, Roha raised his hands and started to seal. Swish swish, swish swish. With the blessing of the ability of dexterous hands, the speed of Roha's seal is already the limit. The hands turned into phantoms, and the fingers were constantly crossed, forming a seal, causing an afterimage. Ninja, clone technique. Boom, boom. Two clouds of smoke suddenly exploded beside Roha, and then two people who were the same as Roha appeared beside him. When they saw these two clones, Ailia and the others couldn't help exclaiming. Success. Ninjutsu. It's really ninjutsu. Look at it. Look at it. The instrument has not recorded the energy fluctuations in the body just now. No problem, take note. Take note of it all. When they saw the unique lines and symbols on the instrument, everyone's faces showed excitement, and the scientists headed by Ailia and others were even more excited. Because before, Roha told them that although there is a threshold for ninjutsu, everyone can try to practice. No one dislikes power, especially men. People like Ailia and the others, although not so eager for power, suddenly see something as magical as ninjutsu and want to try it. As for the devil fruit unique to the pirate world, Roha did not propose to get them a few to improve their survivability, but after hearing about the side effects of the devil fruit, Tianjing Yasheng and the others still refused a bit tangled. With Roha, there will always be other ways. Why use those things that have side effects, and the current ninjutsu is what they want to learn. After a short period of excitement, Tianjing Yasheng and others also calmed down and began to assist Roha to record the operation of ninjutsu energy. These things, after systematic analysis and inference, will be used to write more efficient cultivation methods through the Skynet cluster consciousness. As for whether the power of ninjutsu can be improved, it is still unclear. In the proving ground, Roha began to use Iruka to teach his basic ninjutsu in turn. On the edge of the proving ground, watching Roha skillfully use ninjutsu one by one, Iruka's face couldn't help showing shock. You must know that it has only been half a month since Roha succeeded in refining chakra and began to learn ninjutsu. Roha has already learned all the ninjutsu he taught and was able to release it smoothly. It's a monster. Iruka laughed at himself. You know, it took him nearly a year to learn these ninjutsu back and forth. Compared with Roha's 15 days, he is simply the scum of the scum. But after thinking about Roha's strength again, Iruka's heart gradually eased. Even if Roha didn't know anything about ninjutsu at the beginning, after all, the strength was there, whether it was the speed of thinking, the technique of casting, or the flexibility of manipulating the energy in the body. Are progressing far faster than ordinary people. Soon, Roha completed all the ninjutsu taught by Iruka. After letting the android take away the stake for the substitute technique, Roha closed his eyes and quietly felt the remaining chakra in his body. Well, there are still about 70%. Roha nodded with satisfaction, and Roha was still very satisfied with the amount of his chakra. After all, chakra is the energy extracted from all the cells of the human body, and with a physical quality like his, coupled with the increase in the blood of the dragon, the energy in the cells is much more than ordinary people, and it naturally extracts more. If only there were as many chakras as Naruto. Roha still shook his head in dissatisfaction. However, Roha is not someone who wants to eat a fat man in one go. With the system, he will surpass everyone sooner or later, so don't worry. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. 9 flowers. After receiving the signal from Yashang Tianjing, Roha calmed down and ordered in his mind. System, temporarily turn off the ability of shard consumption to be converted into physical strength, and let Naruto shards consume my chakra instead. Open black lens bracket understand, converting. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket conversion completed close black lens bracket. After feeling a little strange in the body, Roha no longer hesitated, chose a ninjutsu fragment in the storage space, and started to use it. Fire escape how fireball technique. Water escape water dragon ball technique. Fire escape, phoenix immortal fire technique. The sound of hurricane whistling, the sound of flames burning and bursting, and the sound of rolling water waves, all kinds of sounds continued to appear in the experimental field. It was not until Roha finished performing all the lower-level ninjutsu in the storage space that he took off the sensor on his body. By this time, nearly 6 hours had passed. Although it sounds long, in fact, Roha has not really used ninjutsu for a long time, and more often he is replying to chakra. The consumption of a slightly advanced level is so large. Thinking about it now, Naruto's chakra is really scary, and it's like playing a ninjutsu that doesn't cost money. Roha, who sat on the ground and replied to chakra, slightly tiredly stood up, shook his head, turned and walked to the side of the scientists. How is it? Have you recorded it all? Of course. It's all recorded. Tianjing Yashang stared at the messy lines and dense data on the screen. His face was full of excitement, and he didn't even raise his head. Can artificial humans be used? Roha asked the question he was most concerned about. Yes. As long as the original genes are modified and the genes that can use chakra are imported, the androids can use ninjutsu. Although they may not be too advanced in a short time, they can definitely improve their combat effectiveness. Speaking of this, Tianjing Yashang was even more excited, chattering about various modification methods in his mouth, and the whole person seemed to be stunned. Helplessly smiled, Roha was not in charge of Yashang Tianjing. After instructing Ioria to count the data as soon as possible, Roha turned and left. There was a plan he wanted to try. Chapter 282 Ninjutsu Academy. A month has passed quietly, and because of the existence of the Dimension Brigade, the 7 capitals that have lived happily ever after, suddenly boiled over because of a news a few days ago. Hey, have you heard about the latest announcement from the Dimension Brigade? I heard that it seems to be called Ninjutsu Academy. I heard about it too, but I understand the academy, but what is ninjutsu? Hearing the last person speak, everyone looked at him with the eyes of rare animals. Grip grass, you don't even know ninjutsu. You didn't watch Naruto, did you? That is, are you from the Seven Waters City, and there are still Seven Waters City people who don't follow Dream Magazine? Hey, I'm not, I just came here, and I want to make a living. Please forgive me, brothers. The middle-aged man with a beard in a blue suit sneered and scratched his head, and immediately took out a small put-berry into the hands of a few people. Brothers, tell me what's going on in this ninjutsu academy. Seeing Qian, the attitude of the people we discussed before suddenly improved, and with an arrogant demeanor, they began to explain to the middle-aged people. It turned out that half a month ago, the Dimensional Brigade suddenly started construction on a small island not far from the Seven Waters, and built a large building. It is even said that some people have seen that on the island, a group of mysterious people are running around, and with a wave of their hands, a large piece of sand can be shaped into a wall, and a tall building can be built in a few hours. Such a huge momentum, of course, could not hide the ships coming and going in the Seven Waters. At first, everyone was curious about what the Dimensional Brigade was doing. There were frequent speculations about this, but no one could give the real answer. It was not until a few days ago that the Dimension Brigade issued an announcement that it turned out to be an academy they built. The name of the academy is Ninjutsu Academy. And the responsibility of this ninjutsu student is to recruit students and teach them ninjutsu. Teaching people ninjutsu, really or not? Is it something in this comic? The middle-aged man took the comic given by the person next to him and pointed to the fireball technique in the comic with a look of disbelief on his face. Of course it's true. What are you doing to lie to you? Or do you think the Dimension Brigade can lie to us little people? That's right. Guess what? The Dimension Brigade can't get what you want. What are you doing to deceive you? It has to be said that the people living in the Seven Waters have a kind of blind worship to the Dimension Brigade. Seeing this, the middle-aged people can only laugh a few times and apologize again and again. Hey, bro, do you know when the Ninjutsu Academy started recruiting? What are the conditions for recruiting? It seems that you really don't know. One person looked at the middle-aged man with a strange look. The Ninjutsu Academy will start recruiting people today, but I guess you won't be able to catch up. The Ninjutsu Academy has issued an announcement, so let's recruit people. 3 days, and the first batch of students only recruited 100 people, more will not be accepted. Quote. So few. The middle-aged man couldn't help but exclaimed, and immediately asked eagerly, what about the conditions? How much money can you pay to get in? Well, I don't know about this either, but it doesn't seem to require any money. As long as you pass the exam and meet the qualifications, you can do it. Yes, I remember that too. Tisk, let me tell you, since you don't need money, the exam must be difficult. Can they take enough people in just 3 days? You don't understand this. Who is that? That's the Dimension Brigade. Being able to enter the Ninjutsu Academy is equivalent to having a relationship with the Dimension Brigade. There are many people who want to go. Yes, this sentence is right. I even sent my uncle's daughter's nephew to go there 2 days ago. You didn't see the scene at that time. There are still 2 days before the enrollment. Hundreds of boats surrounded the island. Now, there is chaos everywhere. So many people, all on the boat, no one on the island. How dare you board it? The Dimensional Brigade has put up a sign on the island, and it's just 6 words: anyone who lands on the island without authorization, die. Seeing this sign, even the 4 emperors would not dare to intrude, let alone that group of guys. Underscore. Hey, you said. A few chatting people didn't notice that the generous middle-aged man had quietly left. Going straight to the pier, driving a small boat, after nearly 20 nautical miles, the middle-aged man stopped. It can be seen that even in such an emergency running for several hours, there is no tiredness on the face of the middle-aged man, and the strength of his physical strength is evident. Looking towards the capital of the Seven Waters for a while, after confirming the distance, the middle-aged person nodded in satisfaction. 15 nautical miles away, it should be out of the surveillance range of that thing called Skynet. Thinking of the old captain's advice before leaving, the middle-aged man shook his head with a wry smile. The times have really changed, and it's terrifying that there is something that can monitor the entire island and the surrounding sea area. If the Navy had this thing at the time, it would definitely be able to avoid many tragedies. It would be great if this organization called the Dimension Brigade could join the Navy. The middle-aged man's thoughts drifted away for a while, but soon he came back to his senses and took out 2 phone bugs. After turning on the anti-monitoring phone bug, he dialed the number he knew by heart. Who? From the phone worm, came a deliberately suppressed, low-pitched voice. That old bastard Carp. The middle-aged man said the code indifferently, and after he finished speaking, he couldn't help but laugh. How is it? Hearing the familiar voices and secret words, the voice on the other side of the phone worm suddenly changed into a magnetic middle-aged voice. If Roha was present at this time, then he would definitely be able to hear the person opposite the phone bug. Exactly, warring states. Immediately, the middle-aged man told the warring states one by one the information he had obtained by talking to others several times. After listening to the report, warring states on the other end of the phone worm was silent for a while, and didn't speak again until 10 minutes later. Go try it out and see if you can join that ninjutsu academy. Okay. The middle-aged man agreed without thinking, completely ignoring the possibility of his own death if he infiltrated other forces. After a pause, the middle-aged man immediately asked, "In what capacity do I go? Are the replacements ready? Don't change your identity, go as yourself." Hearing this, the face of the middle-aged man finally changed, and his brows were deeply locked. "In your own identity?" "Yes, in front of the Dimensional Brigade. The chances of you being able to hide your identity are too low, and there is nothing in their rules that prevents people from other forces from going there. If you are rejected by them, you don't have to try to sneak in. Come back, I'll give it to the CP9 and CP0 guys. And most importantly, there are not many old brothers." The sudden and straightforward words of the Warring States period made this middle-aged man who had fought his entire life without a wife and no children and was alone for a long time silent for a long time, and finally he nodded heavily with red eyes. "Yes, Captain." Author P.S. Well, don't worry about adding strength to the enemy here, at a loss. Non-existent. Chapter 283 Rubbing the Net. Office Worker. About 50 nautical miles from the capital of Seven Waters, there is an island with an area of about 10 square kilometers. This island, because the area is too small, the island is full of poisons, and there are no valuable resources. It has always been an uninhabited island. Too many stops on the island. However, now this island has ushered in earth-shaking changes. A building full of modern atmosphere rises up from the ground and is arranged in an orderly manner in the middle of the island. There are teaching buildings, training grounds, dormitories, ninjutsu research institutes, and all kinds of facilities. The smooth and flat roads are wide enough for dozens of people to walk side by side, and the beautifully arranged landscapes with different shapes make all those who come to take the entrance test as if they have entered a fantastic city. Although in Roha's view, the construction of the Ninjutsu Academy is still too rudimentary, not even comparable to some better universities in the previous life, but for those living in the world of pirates, such an academy is already paradise-like place. Under the leadership of the guide staff arranged by the OHTH Dimension Brigade, as a watchman on the ship of the Warring States period, Wensai also walked towards the Ninjutsu Academy in the center of the island with the massive flow of people. However, as soon as they arrived at the gate, there were bursts of exclamations from the crowd. It was two huge lion stone statues with a height of 5 meters. The carvings were exquisite and the shape was terrifying. At first glance, it seemed as if they were about to jump off the stone seat and choose someone to devour. Several test takers from the countryside, who had seen such a thing before, screamed and stepped back, causing the other rich children to laugh. However, even noble disciples would inevitably look at the two lion statues with astonishing eyes. In addition to the real shape, the rubies embedded in the lion's eyes made them hot. That fist-sized ruby, in a small kingdom, it can even be regarded as a treasure of the town. It was actually inlaid on the stone statue at the door by the Dimensional Brigade, and there are 4 inlaid. After realizing the value of the ruby, everyone could not help looking up at the ruby when they passed the stone statue. He glanced at him with greedy eyes. Of course, Wensai was the former, but after realizing that there was a faint gaze watching him in the void, Wensai raised his brows and quickly lowered his head, not looking at Ruby again. This feeling is Skynet. The Dimensional Brigade has also set up Skynet here. Thinking of Skynet's pervasive surveillance capabilities introduced in the intelligence, Wensai couldn't help frowning. The Ninjutsu Academy of the Dimension Brigade is probably not a simple academy. But at this moment, Wensai suddenly felt a sharp gaze staring at him again, and after staring at him for more than 10 seconds, he just left. Looking at the middle-aged man trying to hide himself from the crowd, Roha, who was standing high in the academy, smiled faintly and withdrew his gaze. Very keen perception. Who is that guy? Roha asked without looking back. Wensai, the lookout on the ship in the Warring States period before he was promoted to marshal, his strength is comparable to that of a colonel of the Navy headquarters. Tianjing Yashang behind him pushed his glasses and explained to Roha while communicating with Skynet. Write him down. If he passes the genetic test, try to let him stay. With such a keen perception, he may be smoother than others when practicing ninjutsu, and he will have more new ideas. Roha ordered lightly. Many years later, when he has become a master of ninjutsu, he has mastered several original ninjutsu and hundreds of general ninjutsu wensai. When asked by his descendants how he passed the most perverted examination, successfully passed dozens of examinations, and became the first batch of ninjutsu students to become the golden generation, Wensai, who was already white-haired, inevitably showed pride. Expression. Assessment. For geniuses, there is no examination. The old man did a genetic test at the beginning, and then passed the test. The life of a genius needs no explanation. As everyone knows, Roha, who can change a person's fate with one sentence, is still inquiring about the progress of the ninjutsu academy. How about the people on the island before? According to your order, sir, I gave them a sum of money and let them go. A few guys who wanted the lion to open its mouth have already been thrown into the sea. Speaking of this, Tianjin Yashang couldn't help but smile. Yes, the person is really, I don't know how to say it, and playing a rogue with us is really eating the guts of a bear's heart and a leopard. The world is so big, there will always be some guys who don't have brains. Roha shook his head and couldn't help but think of what happened when he just took a fancy to this island. Originally, Roha thought that this island was an uninhabited island, but when he actually came to investigate, he found that it was not the case at all. There are actually hundreds of simple wooden houses on the island and a small pier, and nearly 1,000 people live here. At first, Roha thought that the information he saw was wrong. In fact, there is a village here, but when he saw that there was no supporting facilities that a village should have on the island, he was a little strange. Out of curiosity, Roha pulled someone over and asked. However, when he heard the other party's words, Roha was really dumbfounded. These people have all moved to this island in recent months, and the reason why they live on this desert island is actually because of Skynet. As early as shortly after the official operation of Skynet, the population of the 7 water capitals was close to saturation. Because of the endless crime cases, Roha also issued a series of rectification orders 417. Among them, anyone without a fixed residence is prohibited from staying in the 7 waters for a long time. And those who wanted to rely on Skynet to learn technology, or to make a fortune, after being expelled from the city, a flash of inspiration led them to discover a new way. That is to live on an island near the capital of 7 waters, and then take a fixed passenger boat every morning and evening to travel to and from the capital of 7 waters. During the day, get on the boat early and get some sleep on the boat. After a few hours of sailing, after arriving at the 7 waters city, you can find a chair or any place in the 7 waters city, just stay there, you will not be able to log into Skynet, and at night, you will be about to expel the illegal stayers. And then leave by boat. As a result, all the small islands near the capital of the 7 waters became lively. Whether it was a serious island, an uninhabited island, or a deserted island, a large number of foreigners poured in all of a sudden, and there were countless boats coming and going every day. It is even said that there are dozens of ships every day, carrying a full ship of guests, moored in the sea area within the coverage of Skynet, the capital of 7 waters, allowing guests to land on Skynet, and then send them back at night. Of course, things like food supplies, special services, etc. are unavoidable on such ships. After listening to this, Roha couldn't help but laugh and cry. These people are exactly the same as those office workers who could not live in the workplace in the previous life. Chapter 284 Vigorous Admissions. The enrollment plan is still in full swing. The unprecedented variety of examinations and the extremely strict inspections have made all the candidates trying to join the ninjutsu academy to mourn. In such a tense atmosphere, some people who originally planned to infiltrate the ninjutsu academy or want to hang around casually, who were near the thighs of the last Yuan brigade, were gradually brushed off, but even so, the number of people who were eliminated in each level was still accounted for nearly 80%. Those with insufficient physical fitness will be eliminated. Those with heart disease, flat feet, etc. that hinder combat and ninjutsu practice, will be eliminated. Those with insufficient innovation ability will be eliminated. For those who are difficult to accept new things, eliminate them. Genetic testing, extraction of chakra difficult, eliminated. There are all kinds of reasons, either reasonable or in the eyes of ordinary people, which are simply unreasonable reasons for elimination. Even if they are afraid of the dimensional brigade, there will be people who will resist. Why did you eliminate me? This is the third to last level. Do you know how much I paid to come here? Just because I passed through that haunted house just now, I just panicked and I'm out. In front of a desk, a young man in a black suit slapped the desk hysterically, screaming frantically at the office staff behind the desk, looking unacceptable. We will reimburse you for the travel expenses and food supply. What else did you pay for? Half a month. Kim Bradley, who was temporarily transferred, looked at the opposite side coldly. The young boy, the eyes exposed on the mask are full of faint sarcasm. I was frightened, I couldn't move, and I diapered my pants. That's what you said, panic. If you were so panicked on the battlefield, you would have died long ago. The young man didn't expect to be known about his peeing his pants, and his face flushed with embarrassment for a while. Don't waste time here, next one. Kim Bradley waved his hand coldly. The young man wanted to argue a few more words, but at this moment, he suddenly saw a burly man with a scar on the desk next to him, who had obtained the clearance certificate, and a surprised look appeared on his face. You also accept him? Do you know that this guy is bullying men and women in our town, doing all kinds of evil? Who are you accepting? The noise here has already attracted some onlookers, and when they heard the boy's words, some of the people who were eliminated and still lingered suddenly began to boo with curiosity. That's right, who are you taking? I've seen several big pirates pass through. Fortunately, I didn't pass. If you let me study with those murderous guys in the future, it's better to kill me. Who knows what they will do? More than a big pirate. Guess what I saw just now? I actually saw a famous female branch of the Seven Waters City has passed all the tests and became a student. Ha ha ha, she won't sell it in it. I saw it too. The one wearing it is called an enchanting girl. I don't believe it if you say she is not for sale. The young people around the desk were making loud noises, wanton venting their dissatisfaction, and they looked like the biggest man in the world, and no one dared to touch him. However, they didn't notice that even if they said so, there were some people around who didn't move at all, but left them far away. In the distance, the female support girl whom they recognized saw this scene, not only was not angry, but looked at them with the eyes of dead people. Idiot. I don't know whether to live or die. A bunch of uneducated brats. Such thoughts invariably surfaced in the minds of those who were on the sidelines. A group of little devils spoiled by the people around them take this place as their own territory. Don't even look at who they are facing. Sure enough, after the group of juveniles finished making noise, the office staff who were actually members of the Shadows knocked on the table coldly. The people who made trouble just now were tied up and hung on the beach for a week. They were given pig food every day, and if they survived, let them go. If you talk nonsense anymore, just kill it. Kim Bradley made everyone around him tremble. As one of the top fighters in the world of Fullmetal Alchemist, Kim Bradley's strength has grown by leaps and bounds during this period of time. This strong murderous aura alone is enough to make ordinary people unable to move. This masked man is so strong. Wen Sai, who had already been selected, looked at Kim Bradley with a look of fear. Originally, he thought that he had already overestimated the strength of the Dimensional Brigade, but he never expected that the momentum that erupted from a random ordinary staff member was already so powerful. After silently comparing himself with the other party in his heart, Wen Sai's mood was even lower. With his strength, I am afraid that he will be beheaded within a few dozen strokes. Soon, a cyborg warrior in black armor came over and began to arrest the person who caused the trouble just now. Even if someone tried to sneak into the crowd and escape, they would be marked by Skynet and then caught. When the riots subsided, Kim Bradley looked at the silent people around him, paused for a moment on some people with resentment in their eyes, then walked out from behind the desk, jumped, and his body suddenly rose more than 10 meters. Jumped to the top of a small 4-story house beside him. Looking down, because of his actions, looking up at the crowd at him, Kim Bradley made a sound of luck. You all, listen to me. Presumably many people are dissatisfied with this exam, but I want to tell you now, if you have any dissatisfaction, please bear with me. If you have any complaints, hold it for me. This is the Ninjutsu Academy, the site of the Dimension Brigade, not your home, so you can do whatever you want. This is not the jurisdictional chassis of the world government. The laws outside are all abolished here. The regulations of the Dimensional Brigade are the biggest laws. You should be glad that the riot just now didn't let the real adults know, otherwise, I believe they will let you know what it means to be inviolable. Presumably, none of you don't know about the series of killing characters in the capital of the Seven Waters. The Dimension Brigade has never been a charitable organization. If you want to get something here, you have to give me my duty. One last thing, anyone who passes all the assessments is already half of the Dimensional Brigade. How we discipline them has nothing to do with you. If I hear someone slander them again, I'm sorry, no matter where you are. A nobleman or some big pirate, I will make you feel the real despair. Quote. Do you understand? Kim Bradley's roar, like a thunderous explosion, echoed in everyone's ears. Everyone trembled all over, and nodded quickly, one after another, the sound of catering echoed around the distance, watching Kim Bradley jump off the roof. Axiong Tianjing, who was standing beside Roha, couldn't help frowning. My lord, Kim Bradley It's okay. Roha waved his hand, he did a good job. Standing in the same place again, watching the admissions for a while, Roha walked downstairs slowly. Enrollment was coming to an end, and it was time for him, the honorary president, to speak. Chapter 285 Ninjutsu Era. The enrollment that lasted for 3 days finally ended. 98 students who stood out from among 10,000 people gathered together and sat in the auditorium honestly, waiting for the final ceremony. Unlike the previous assessment where black armored soldiers were patrolling everywhere and the atmosphere was dignified, there was a relaxed atmosphere in the auditorium. Except for the scattered staff, there were no people from the Dimensional Brigade. There was no one to monitor, and everyone couldn't help but relax, sitting together in 2s and 3s, whispering, and venting their excitement. I didn't expect that I could actually pass the test, really. Really, I can finally stand out. A simple-clothed, dark-skinned, sallow-faced teenager, with tears of excitement flashing in his eyes, his face was full of tears that he had never had before. Excited color. Yeah, I didn't expect that. I came with my captain. He is a big pirate with a bounty of 70 million. We came here from the New World on purpose, but I didn't expect the captain to pass. I passed. It was a man in a black vest with a scar at the corner of his eyes. No matter how flamboyant he was on the pirate ship, at this moment, he was as happy as a child. The mood of these two people basically represented everyone present, and they were very excited to be able to join the academy under the Dimension Brigade. Even when Sai, who came here with a special purpose, was infected by the emotions around him, and excitement rose in his heart. Hey, I heard that someone will come to speak to us soon. Who do you think? Someone suddenly said curiously. I guess it's the principal here. I hope it's not a pot-bellied old man who talks for an hour or two at a time. I guess it can't be that kind of guy. According to my feeling, it should be the cadre of the Dimension Brigade. Really or not, how can we meet such a big man? Who knows, the Dimensional Brigade suddenly made such a big move, and there is no cadre to come out and show his face. If you can see the head of the Dimensional Brigade, then when I go back, it will be worth at least how much it will be sold to the newspaper. Thousands of berries. Tens of millions is not enough. I heard that the underground world offers a reward for the appearance of the head of the Dimensional Brigade, and it has reached 200 million berry. 20 million. That high? Someone exclaimed, but at this moment, the curtain of the high platform at the front of the auditorium suddenly opened, and everyone was stunned for a moment, and immediately sat down in their seats. Clatter, 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 clatter. The sound of gentle footsteps came from behind the high platform, and everyone remained motionless, looking at the high platform with anticipation. When they saw the two people walking on the high platform, everyone's eyes widened, and some even let out a low exclamation. It was Roha and Aruka who was chosen as his teacher. There are only 98 people. Roha glanced at the people present, feeling a little disappointed. I didn't expect that only 98 people were screened out of the 10,000 people. This ratio is really a little too low. Although Roha just glanced at everyone lightly, the momentum on his body, coupled with Roha's prestige, still made many people bow their heads like ostriches. Okay, I won't say much nonsense. First of all, congratulations on passing the assessment. Luoya smiled lightly. When everyone was happy, Roha hooked his lips and continued, however, passing the assessment does not mean that you have really become our students. Before that, I want to tell you about the admissions. Hard and fast rules. Quote. Hearing this, everyone froze in their hearts and pricked up their ears, for fear of missing a word that Roha said, so that they would miss out on the identity of the students who were about to arrive. First of all, this ninjutsu academy is the same as what you think. It is to teach you ninjutsu among Naruto. Of course, there is nothing in the world for nothing. If you want to learn ninjutsu, you must abide by our special rules. That is, in the study of the ninjutsu academy, except for the tasks we assign to you, no one is allowed to leave the island without authorization. Of course, if there is something important, you can report it, and we will send someone to follow. If someone's family members or something is caught in your hands, you can report it to the top, and we will help you solve it. You can also take your relatives directly to the Seven Waters. The Dimension Brigade has this confidence. As for those who want to take the opportunity to convey information to the outside world, I advise you to save yourself and not make me angry. Having said that, Roha's eyes inadvertently swept to several people in the crowd. His eyes were cold and severe. Now, does anyone want to leave? Roha asked lightly. No one moved, and after listening to Roha's words, even a few spies couldn't help but be shaken. That is to learn ninjutsu, the power is enough to destroy the ninjutsu. Except for those die-hard loyalists, the vast majority of spies are willing to change their homes if they can relieve their worries. After taking everyone's expressions into his eyes, a faint smile appeared on Roha's face. Since none of you want to leave, then I can congratulate you, you have officially become a student of the Ninjutsu Academy. Here, you will learn real ninjutsu and change your life, whether you were a farmer, an actor, or any other profession. I believe that after graduating from here, your life will definitely be changed drastically. Quote. Everyone will treat you as a guest of honor, and you will be at your fingertips. As long as you work hard. I'll stop here. Your real teacher, Aruka, will explain the academy rules and teaching courses for you. Roha pointed at the crowd, nodded lightly, got up and left the auditorium. After he left, he could hear cheers like a tsunami of mountains and tsunamis in the auditorium. As if infected by this laughter, Roha's face also hooked. After seeing Yashang Tianjing waiting at the door, Roha asked while walking. Is everything ready? The facilities are all ready, and we can absolutely monitor all their changes in real time. Tianjing Yashang replied respectfully, but soon he frowned and asked some doubtful questions. But sir, we really need to get such a does the Ninjutsu Academy collect data? It is absolutely possible to collect data from experimental subjects in the laboratory. Quote. Hearing this, Roha shook his head. The experimental subjects are limited after all, and they do not necessarily have the ability to learn ninjutsu. Only those who truly learn can collect data better. I understand. Tianjing Yashang nodded and stopped talking. Roha smiled slightly and stopped talking. In fact, in the establishment of this ninjutsu academy, in addition to letting the students practice ninjutsu and collecting data, Roha also wanted to see if these carefully selected people with great innovation ability can create new ninjutsu technique. Of course, there is a more important reason besides this. That is, Roha wants to see what it will be like when ninjutsu appears in the world of pirates. The feeling of changing the world is so addicting. Chapter 286, the sequel to Ninjutsu Academy. The enrollment of the Ninjutsu Academy that attracted the attention of the world has finally ended, but the dark tide is still rolling in the darkness. In the Hokage comics, after seeing those ninjutsu with different functions and incomparably powerful, all the forces could not hold back the greed in their hearts. If the so-called Ninjutsu Academy of the Dimension Brigade can really teach people ninjutsu, it is definitely far more than Roger's feat of opening up the era of the great pirates, and it will be enough to change the whole world. After all, ninjutsu is different from those with fruit abilities. After all, those with fruit abilities are limited, but ninjas can cultivate a lot, and after they really grow up, they are more useful than those with devil fruit abilities. Under such temptation, countless forces stretched out their tentacles. They showed their favor to the Dimensional Brigade and wanted to get a piece of the pie. Even if they couldn't get it, they wanted their people to enter the Ninjutsu Academy. And in the dark, they kept contacting one after another who enrolled in the Ninjutsu Academy and were eliminated. At the very beginning, many people still refused to speak out because they were afraid that the Dimensional Brigade would trouble them. However, when they discovered that there was some information about the assessment circulating in the world, and the Dimensional Brigade was not angry, all the candidates who were eliminated immediately cheered up, clearly marked the price, and began to sell all the information they knew. Among these people who sell intelligence, the more people who pass the customs, the more expensive the information in their hands, and those who are eliminated in the last level have become the targets of all forces to please. In addition to knowing all the assessment contents, more importantly, they know who the students of the Ninjutsu Academy are. He even said he knew the other person's name and hometown. After learning this information, some small forces who knew that they would not cooperate with the Dimensional Brigade to make deals suddenly got crooked. Thousands of villains flocked to the hometowns of the various students. However, what made these ugly guys never imagine that they were not the relatives and friends of the official students of the Ninjutsu Academy, but a family member. Another soldier in black armor and holding a strange firearm. For these crooked guys, Roha has long expected, and Roha only said a word about the results of these people's treatment. Why? Kill, Yin. Why? Bullets cut through the sky and poured down like a torrential rain. In the face of the android warriors equipped with automated weapons, these small forces have no resistance at all. Often just one encounter will result in heavy casualties. Even if someone was lucky enough to break through the hail of bullets and rushed to the android warrior, they found something even more hopeless. The melee capabilities of the android warriors are actually more dangerous than bullets like a rainstorm. Power generation, physical regeneration, mental interference, space movement, and even vector manipulation. Although the ability level of the android warriors is mostly LV1, and very few reach LV2, but even so, with mutual cooperation, it is enough to control the direction of the low-end battlefield. The blades are touching, and there is an electric current suddenly coming from the opponent's knife. He slashed horizontally, but when he was about to slash the opponent's head, how many centimeters shifted? When fighting in close combat, there was a sudden tingling in the brain. In the midst of fierce fighting, a little negligence often leads to a different end. What's more, such negligence happens every few seconds. 9 flowers. And so, the bloody massacre began. No one has counted how many forces there are. When they intended to kidnap, they met the black-armored soldiers of the Dimension Brigade. But everyone knows that there are really many people who died this time. There are thousands of villains who died in this battle, but this is far from over Q iota. Just when everyone thought that the Dimension Brigade would pick up all the relatives of the students, and the killing of the villains was over, the Dimension Brigade took action. Led by Accelerator and Gilgamesh, and supplemented by members of the Shadows, they found all the forces that wanted to kidnap one by one. Not accepting explanations, not accepting compensation, and even saying that Gilgamesh, this guy, didn't bother to talk to the other party, so he started directly. Those who find people in stations will be destroyed directly. If there are no people in the station will be destroyed and a reward will be put up. This counterattack that made more than 80% of the forces in the world tremble, for fear that they would be misunderstood by the Dimensional Brigade, lasted for half a month. The number of deaths cannot be calculated, and even the Warring States period was too involved in this incident, and too many people died, so he called Roja. However, before the Warring States period could speak, Roja said, "Are they good people?" And he didn't know what to say. Indeed, how could the guy who kidnapped the relatives of the practitioners be a good person? After this incident, Roja successfully let all the forces withdraw the spies who circled around the ninjutsu academy and got a rare rest. It's just that some people clearly don't want him to rest. Chapter 287 Traitor. The Country of Zou. The mystery of the fantasy island located in the New World, although it is called an island, but in fact the island where the country of Zou is located does not exist on the sea, but stands in the sea at one end, only the part that is exposed to the sea. There are thousands of meters above the giant elephant. The giant elephant is called the Elephant Lord. Where did it come from, and how long it has lived is incalculable. Able to prove. Even in the kingdom of Zou, few people know the actual situation of the elephant master. They only know that the elephant owner will carry the kingdom of Zou and walk slowly in the sea. It is precisely because of the movement of the elephant that the country of Zou has become a moving country, and it is completely impossible to rely on the recording pointer to find it. If you want to find the country of Zou, in addition to meeting at the sea, you can only find it if you have the life cards of the residents living in the country of Zou. Zorn, the black cat, returned to his hometown in this way. In the dark of night, Zon, who was full of hair on his body, carefully moved forward in the jungle, bypassing guards patrolling one after another. After half an hour, he finally arrived at his destination. A huge whale statue inside the whale forest. HMPH, as expected, black hair is the most useful. At night, even the guards didn't see me. Zon smiled proudly as he watched the light lit in the distance. But with a smile, I don't know what I remembered. The smile on Zon's face gradually disappeared, his face became gloomy, and his palms touched his chest, abdomen and back. There are patches of dull gray hair, which are particularly conspicuous and extremely ugly among the dark and oily hair on his body. Damn Tianlong. Zon gritted his teeth, his face full of terrifying resentment. That's right, Zorn was once a slave of the Draconians. In the long life of slavery, Zon received countless abuses. Although he healed with the powerful self-healing ability of the Fur tribe, he still left many hidden diseases on his body. And his dull gray hair covering all over the body was formed after being beaten by the Tianlong people with whips soaked with special venom. After countless attempts, even enduring severe pain, Zon finally understood after looking at the newly grown gray hairs. It is impossible for him to have dark hair again in his life, he can only live with this gorgeous hair. Hair like this is for the Fur family. It is said that it is just as ugly and disgusted by people after being burned all over the body. Originally, Zon, who learned such bad news, had planned to give up his life, but when he was about to end his own life, the second Mary Joa slave emancipation begins. Relying on his physical strength far stronger than ordinary people, Zon successfully escaped, boarded the escape ship, and arrived in the New World with the fleet. When he learned that his benefactor planned to go to the West Sea to fight against the Tianlong people, Zon was very moved, but after hesitating for a long time, Zon, who was greedy for life and fear of death, chose to refuse. He was already afraid of the Tianlong people from the bottom of his heart. After leaving the fleet, after a long journey, Zon finally arrived at his destination, his hometown, the country of Zou. After returning to the country of Zou, Zon, who learned to cry and beg for mercy under the Tianlong people, soon won the sympathy of many residents with his real and fake acting skills, and the leader of the Cat and Pit Viper specially prepared for him room, work and a series of preferential treatment. But all this did not impress Zon at all. There was a look of hatred in Zorn's eyes as the residents sympathized with him and comforted him while discussing his hideous fur and slave life with the draconians behind their backs. "You guys look down on me. Sooner or later, I will trample all of you under my feet." Zon secretly hated in his heart. Some people are like this, facing people who are more vicious than him, they are cowardly, and facing people who are weaker than him, they are vicious and do not want to say anything. Such people are called bullying the soft and fearing the hard, and Zon has to add a little more to this. Ungrateful. Looking left and right, Zon quietly took out a rock-covered cloth from the wrap around his waist. After wrapping himself up, Zon began to march towards the raised tail of the whale statue. Because the height of the whale statue is beyond the jungle, it is easy to be found, so this time Zon's pace is slower. After nearly 2 hours, he came to the whale's tail, and groped around on the rock wall next to him. After a while, Zon found the location of the secret door, quietly pushed it open, and walked in quickly. When he walked down the long stairs and saw the huge red stone tablet appearing in front of him, he couldn't help crying out with excitement. Sure enough, there are only 4 pieces in the world that can guide people to the historical text of the road sign to Ralph Drew. As long as there is this. Just sell this news. I will definitely be able to buy the devil fruit that restores the fur, and the extra money can buy a few slave girls. Suddenly seeing this square stone tablet, Zon's face was inevitably excited and greedy. However, he did not choose to go forward, but cautiously returned to the original path, went straight all the way, and left Zo Island. A few days later, the whole sea swayed again because of Zon's appearance. And the trade object Zon chose was the Big Mom pirates who held one of the historical texts of the road signs. Suddenly learned about BIGMOM, the location of the historical text of the road sign. The same day, 5.2 BIGMOM dispatched a small fleet to take Zone to the country of Zo, intending to seize the historical text of the road sign. However, the strength of the fur tribe in the country of Zo is far beyond their imagination. The face of the fur tribe, who were all soldiers, as well as the 2 powerhouses, Cat Viper and Duke Inuarashi, BIGMOM's vanguard army returned from a disastrous defeat and lost more than half of it. The traitor Zon died on the spot, and the remaining pirates fled in embarrassment. Go back to the sea and ask BIGMOM for help. However, what BIGMOM did not expect was that before he traded with them, Zon had already passed the news to others for fear that BIGMOM would kill him. World. So, after a few days, the whole world boils. Chapter 288 What is Roger? New World, Moby Dick. Oh, Dad, the historical text of the road sign. Don't let us take action, get one back. Marco whistled after hearing the information he just got, and looked at Whitebeard with a smile. No. Whitebeard replied without thinking. After speaking, he picked up the wine bowl and took a big gulp. Why don't you go? It's Dad, who can be the pirate king if you're not. Get this piece of road sign history, and get the other 3, and we can go to Ralph Drew. Yeah, it really doesn't work. Daddy, you don't have to go out, we can help you get it back. The pirates spoke one after another, persuading Whitebeard. In their hearts, only Whitebeard is the real candidate for One Piece, and it is destined to return, and the historical text of the road sign should naturally be Whitebeard. Goo la la la, One Piece. Whitebeard put down the wine bowl, wiped his mouth, and laughed heartily, and all the pirates around were dazed. Laughing for a while, Whitebeard looked at them. Boys, who said that the person who arrived at Ralph Drew to get the treasure there is One Piece? That's just what that bastard Roger said. Why did he decide that I should not be the pirate king? I didn't accept him back then, and now I have to follow in his footsteps. What a joke. Gee la la la, you don't have to worry about this anymore. If you really want to go to Ralph Drew, then wait for someone to collect 3 or 4 pieces of road sign history text before shooting, save you searching everywhere. Stinky boys, do you understand? Whitebeard scolded with a smile. Got it. Everyone shouted loudly, their faces full of proud joy. This is their beloved father, the character who once competed with Roger. Holy Land Mary Joa. In the luxurious room at the top of Mary Joa, the four old men were sitting or standing, staying in the room with solemn expressions. Finally there is a piece of road sign history text. We must get this piece. Is greater than or equal to that must be taken, but how to take it? Now that the Big Mom pirates have been dispatched, they are heading towards Zo. Did they want to go to war with them? Tilda and GT, equals. Having said that, the room fell silent again. Indeed, with the current strength of the Navy, it is too difficult to start a full-scale war with the four Emperor pirates in the New World. If it is just a Big Mom pirate group, they are still confident to solve it completely, but the problem is that this is the New World, where the pirates are most rampant. If there are the other four Emperor pirates watching from the side, or even directly intervening in the battlefield, I am afraid that the Navy will face an unprecedented tragic situation. With the current strength of the Navy, if they fought against four Emperor pirates at the same time, they simply could not afford the losses. That is a loss enough to shake the dominance of the world government. Let's wait and see, transfer your strength to the New World, and see if you can take advantage of the fishermen and grab the historical text of the road sign after the Big Mom pirates have been consumed by the country of Zo. Troy suggested. Yes. Second. Zobak and Miyamoto Tosai all agreed, but when everyone's eyes turned to Mido Frontgate looked up and looked at everyone. Have you never thought about it? Do we take action together? As long as we dispatch one or two people, we can completely ensure the capture of the historical text of the road sign. 5 old stars shot. This proposal seems to be the most satisfactory solution. Hearing this, everyone could not help but fall silent. Having been in high positions for too long, they have subconsciously put themselves out of the fight, so that no one thought of this before Mido Zenjman made a suggestion. However, who should be let go? Mido Chinwyman looked at the silent people, shook his head and sighed. Fighting for power and profit, retaining strength, and not giving others any chance to take advantage of it, this kind of thinking seems to be their instinct in 010. There is a better solution, but they don't even speak. Let's do this, draw lots, send 2 people to take action, and the other 2 stay behind Marijoya, how about that? Mido Chinwyman suggested. Yes. I have no opinion. I don't mind either. After hesitating for a moment, the other 3 agreed with Mido Zenemon's words and nodded slowly. 10 minutes later, the 4 of them had different expressions and left the room one after another. The entire Mary Joa has entered into intense preparations. After Mido Chinwyman returned home, he lay on the bed a little tired, and took out a paper ball from his arms. Looking at the red dots on the paper ball, his face was a little melancholy. For some reason, after knowing that he was one of the 2 who shot, Mido Zenemon had a lingering ominous premonition in his heart. After a while, a sharp look flashed in Mido Chinwyman's eyes, and he rubbed the paper ball in his hand fiercely. Isn't it just a fight, what? Chapter 289 Fuck his daughter. Undercurrents are surging, and the forces in the world that have the ability to encroach on the historical text of road signs have all focused their attention on the sea area where the Kingdom of Zo is located. Although the small movements of various forces continued, but seeing that the 4 behemoths of the Navy, Whitebeard, Red Hair, and Dimensional Brigade did not move, the rest of the forces did not dare to take the risk of being the enemy of the Big Mom pirates. Under such a highly anticipated situation, BIGMOM listened to the minister's advice, intending to cut through the mess quickly. Before the rest of the forces have made arrangements, they boldly attacked. Except for the few people who stayed behind on Cake Island, the entire Big Mom pirates were all overwhelmed. Dozens of battleships are full of soldiers from the Big Mom pirates, heading for the country of Zowu. The war is about to begin. Zo, the once dreamlike country, no longer exists at this time. The whole country is in a mess, with ruins and broken walls, sword marks everywhere, and wisps of gunpowder smoke that has not yet dissipated fills the sky above the city. And all of this was caused by the first members of the Big Mom pirates. Although in the first batch of pirates, there was no such rank as a 3-star general, but the 3 cadres still caused heavy losses to the fur tribe. Those 3 cadres were in a state of madness when they fought because they were afraid of being held accountable by their aunt. When they realized that the strength of Cat Viper and Duke Inuarashi was not something they could solve, they let one of them escape without hesitation, and the other 2 fought with their lives. This way of fighting really made the 2 powerhouses, Cat Viper and Duke Inuarashi, so tied up that they had no time to hunt down the third person, and finally provoke BIGMOM. Whale Forest, Center. At this time, a large number of fur warriors gathered here. Although all of them were injured and their expressions were depressed, when they looked at the wooden house in the center of the open space, they still had an undisguised look of surprise. It's incredible that the boss of the cat and the snake and the Duke of Inulan didn't fight when they met, and they even drank together. According to legend, the boss of the cat and Pit Viper and the Duke of Inuarashi used to be very good friends, but for some reason, the relationship between the 2 became worse and worse, and in the end it even turned into a fight when they met. After fighting a few times and destroying countless houses, the boss of Cat Viper and Duke Inuarashi finally reached a consensus under the persuasion of everyone. Since then, the boss of the nocturnal creature, Cat Viper, has been in charge of the Kingdom of Zou from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., and is known as the King of the Night. On the other hand, Duke Inuarashi is the opposite. He is in charge of the Kingdom of Zou from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and is known as the King of the Day. It was also from that day that Cat Viper and Inuarashi never saw each other again, except for the accidental encounter between day and night. And most of those few encounters ended in mutual coldness. People in the country of Zou thought that the relationship between the 2 would continue until death, but they never expected that this sudden upheaval would actually ease the relationship between the 2. See. After all, they are already expensive as the guardians of the country. No matter how ignorant they will not fight against the life and death of this kind of country. In the room, the boss Cat Viper was like a cat, licking his wounds and silent, while Duke Inuarashi was sitting on the side drinking stuffy wine. The atmosphere in the room was weird. After a while, Duke Inuarashi was the first to break the silence. You've heard it too, BIGMOM has come here with the desert 3-star generals and a large number of pirates. With their strength, we can't stop it. Hearing this, the boss of the cat and Pit Viper couldn't help but be silent for a while, and sighed silently. It would be good if the Elephant Master could help. You bastard, you are still talking about these useless words. Duke Inuarashi sneered. You, boss Cat Viper glared, but after seeing the scar on Duke Inulan's chest, he sighed and did not speak. It was cut by a female swordsman from the Snakehead clan. The original target was the Cat Viper. If Inulan hadn't helped him block it, I am afraid that the Cat Viper would have turned into a pile of ashes at this moment. Why don't we find someone to help? Duke Inulan suddenly said hesitantly, with an embarrassed look on his face. It's really embarrassing for a strong person like him to say that he is looking for someone to help. Who are you looking for? Boss Cat Viper asked subconsciously, but suddenly a man who was out of shape all day popped out of his mind. If it is that man, he is really not afraid of BIGMOM. Shanks. Sure enough, the person Duke Inuarashi said was the person Cat Viper thought of. 4 emperors, red-haired Shanks. Speaking of which, the boss Cat Viper, Duke Inuarashi and Shanks do have an indissoluble bond. At the very beginning, Cat Viper and Inuarashi lived under the banner of Whitebeard following the Lord Kazuki Odin. However, for some reason, Kazuki Odin was dug out by Roger, and as Kazuki Odin's loyal subordinates, Cat Viper and Inuarashi naturally followed Kazuki Odin to Roger's boat. During the time when they first arrived on Roger's ship, because the 3 of Kazuki Odin were carrying the name of betrayers, their life was not very good. Although Kazuki Odin was deeply loved by Roger, no one dared to provoke him, but as of the subordinates, the 2 cats and Pit Vipers from different races, were still watched by many crew members in a strange way. Except for one person, Shanks. Shanks, who is optimistic and cheerful and has a detached personality, soon became friends with the 3 of them, and the friendship was deep. Even if the cat and the snake were completely accepted by the Roger pirates in the end, the two of them were also related to Shanks. Even after Roger's death, everyone found a way out, and they did not cut off contact. Just do what they say. When the country lives and dies, the two of them are no longer cautious, and immediately called Shanks. Red Firth. Okay, I see. Well, don't worry, we'll be there soon, it'll be all right. Ha ha ha, you big dog, what are you worrying about? Isn't it BIGMOM, watch me beat her into a pig's head. Okay, don't talk anymore, I'll hang up first. Hey, that guy from BIGMOM dares to touch cats and pit vipers. Shanks hung up the phone, his face became cold, and there were cold lights in his eyes, which were breathtaking. The heartless lackey, holding a barbecue, chewed and asked vaguely, "Boss, who are you going to beat this time?" BIGMOM. Shanks responded lightly, jumped to the top of the wine barrel beside him, clapped his hands, and only spoke after attracting the attention of his companions. Everyone be quiet. I received a call just now. I have two old friends who are being threatened by BIGMOM. What do you guys think? Shanks asked with a smile. Why don't you ask? Fuck her mother. That's right, fuck her. Boss, I'm not like this bunch of hardcore guys, I'm going to fuck her daughter. Ha ha ha, you bastard, you will take advantage. Looking at the crew members who were laughing and scolding, with different expressions, but only the crew members who were not afraid, Shanks smiled happily. That's good. Let's go and turn over BIGMOM. Chapter 290 Unparalleled Naval Battle. 3 days later, the fleet of the Big Mom pirates, which consisted of dozens of huge warships, was sailing on the sea, and was about to reach the feet of the giant elephant. On the dozens of warships, thousands of hideous-looking pirates were like ant colonies, shuttled through the deck, preparing for the battle. However, just as they were about to complete their preparations and wait for the general offensive to begin, there was a rush of sirens from above the fleet. The entire fleet stopped. BIGMOM, the desert 3-star general, and more than a dozen cadres of the Big Mom pirates came to the bow and stood on the bow with a gloomy and terrifying face. And the reason for this huge fleet to stop was an ordinary pirate ship that stopped in front of them. But it is such a ship that makes the entire fleet dare not go further. Looking at the double knife scar skull flag fluttering in the wind on the pirate ship, a heavy sense of depression rose in everyone's heart for no reason. That is the banner of the 4 emperors, the red-haired Shanks. This ship is also Shanks' ship, the Red Firth. Redhead. What do you mean? BIGMOM was wearing suspender pajamas, sitting on top of Thundercloud Zeus. His face was cloudy, and he stared at Shanks standing on the bow of the Red Foss. There was a faint terror on his body like before the eruption of 760. Pressure out. It's not interesting, I just want to tell you, the country of Zo, you can't move. Shanks also stood at the bow of the ship, holding the sword with one hand, and unbuttoned 2 buttons of his white shirt at will, showing his casualness. Behind him, the black cloak fluttered in the wind, and his temperament was unrestrained. Although he had a cynical smile on his face, on Shanks' body, he exudes a terrifying domineering, like a king's landing, convincing all races. Shanks looked coldly at the angry ant, and said unceremoniously, I advise you to stop, so as not to fight against each other. Hearing that Shanks didn't leave any way out, the anger on BIGMOM's face became more and more obvious, and his face turned blue and white. Finally, in the hands of BIGMOM, a pitch-black great sword of red flame appeared. Looking at Shanks who drew out his knife, BIGMOM smiled sinisterly, with a grim face. It seems that you also want to grab the historical text of the road sign, then let me see what the legendary redhead can do. Quote. No matter what BIGMOM thought in her heart, as the 4 emperors, it was impossible for her to return to the same path with all her subordinates because of Shanks' words. If that's the case, then she's not the 4 emperors. Seeing that the negotiation collapsed, Shanks also put away the cynical smile on his face, holding a sword in one hand, full of sword energy, his aura soared into the sky, and the armed aura he had cultivated to the extreme peak spread out, and his eyes were splashing. Above the sea. Pi. Just the imposing confrontation between the two has already dispelled the dark clouds in the sky. Without any nonsense, BIGMOM urged Thundercloud Zeus. Thousands of thunders rolled and shot out. At the same time, BIGMOM made Lion Zeus charge forward, slashing in the air with the flaming sword in his hand, and the sword energy like a huge laser ripped apart the air, cut it open, and rushed straight to Reed with the momentum of destroying all things. Foss. Giant martial arts. Elbaf's gun, powerful country. Good come. In the face of a blow that was enough to tear the mountain apart, no one on the Red Foss showed fear. Boom boom boom. The roaring sound of a landslide and earth cracking shook the entire sea, and dozens of tons of seawater flowed in reverse, shot straight into the sky, and appeared in the middle of the sea. However, this is not over. Swish. The next instant, Shanks jumped high and took BIGMOM, holding a sword in one hand, with unrivaled power, and smashed it down. Facing Shanks' domineering blow, BIGMOM did not dodge or evade, and stabbed it head-on. The two figures, Shanks is indeterminate, domineering and unparalleled, BIGMOM's body is heavy and steady as Mount Tai, the swords collide between them, exuding extremely terrifying energy fluctuations. Boom. It was as if thunder exploded in the ears, a huge roar, and everyone who was trembling froze in front of their eyes. The head-to-head fight between the two four emperors was far more terrifying than everyone imagined. Above the sky within a radius of several miles, all the clouds instantly dissipated into nothingness. Under the feet of the two of them, terrifying energy fluctuations spilled out, and thousands of tons of seawater seemed to be cut by a sharp blade, centered on the collision point between the two, and split to both sides. Above the sea, a deep gulf appeared. The Battle of the Four Emperors Peak is here. Red-haired pirates Red Firth versus Big Mom Pirates Fleet. This peak battle was seen by the spies who were wandering around the country of Zou not long after it started, and it spread all over the world in an instant. The sudden action and strong attitude of the red-haired Shanks exceeded the expectations of all the forces. Red-haired Shanks, who used to be a trainee crew member of the Roger Pirates, and followed Roger's arrival at Ralph, has long been known, so at the very beginning, many people regarded the red-haired pirates as the regiment was excluded from the ranks of competitors, but everyone did not expect that Shanks would still participate in the war, and the means were still so strong that there was no room left at all. Such a move by Shanks disrupted the plans of many people. Naval Headquarters, Marin Vando. At this time, Marin Vando is not much different from the past, but anyone with a discerning eye can see that this is just a deliberately created scene. In fact, within Marin Vando, the vigilance has already been raised to the highest level. In the marshal's office, Warring States was sitting behind the desk, looking at the information just handed in front of him. His face was extremely heavy, and he was still holding a pen in his hand, drawing on the map beside him. It's troublesome this time. Fortunately, Whitebeard has not changed, otherwise the whole new world will be in chaos because of this incident. After hearing that the red-haired pirates intervened, the Warring States' mood could no longer calm down. After all, it was a fight between the two four emperors, and the battlefield coverage was huge. The most important thing is that this battle is not only limited to the two forces of the Red Hair Pirates and the Big Mom Pirates, but also a huge number of bystanders, like hyenas, wandering around the battlefield, ready to participate in this battle at any time. Get a piece of the pie. And it made the Warring States feel a little tricky. Those who dared to hit the four emperors were not ordinary people. The 100 million bounty is just trash. 200 million 300 million is a small roll, and there are many pirates with more than 500 million, it can be called a big pirate gathering. Chapter 291 Ready to step in. If the Red Hair Pirates didn't show up, of course these guys wouldn't dare to make trouble in front of the big pirates. I'm afraid they wouldn't even dare to show up, but the sudden intervention of the Red Hair Pirates made these hyenas who smell meat. Feeling the opportunity, they rushed towards the battlefield. thought about it, the more upset I became. Warring States couldn't help but take a sip of tea and looked up to smell. How's the staffing going? In the office, in addition to the Warring States period, there were several lieutenant generals of the headquarters, and an old woman sitting on the sofa where guests were entertained, quietly flipping through a book. It is the Navy Chief Staff Officer, Crane. Hearing Warring States' inquiry, Crane slowly closed the book and pushed his eyes. Cap, Sakaski, and Kizaru have all arrived at the G5 branch and are waiting for orders. Zephyr will be back this afternoon. Shuai will also find a reason to leave Marijoya and is expected to arrive in Marin Vando tomorrow. There are enough people left behind, but on the New World side, 2 generals plus Carp. Still not enough. Sengoku rubbed his eyebrows with a headache. The original plan of the Warring States period was to reap the benefits of the fishermen. When the battle between Bigmom and the country of Zou was in full swing, Carp, Sakaski, and Kizaru directly intervened to snatch the historical text of the road sign, but now, it is not dare to move at all. Because the Navy is the common enemy of pirates, and the 4 emperors are not fools. Don't look at the fierce battle between the Big Mom pirates and the red-haired pirates, but as long as the Navy dares to appear, you don't have to think about it. Keep hitting. As for how many twists and turns in the middle of the annihilation of the Navy, that is not the concern of the Warring States. Can't wait for the redhead and Auntie to finish the fight before intervening. Directly annihilate the defeated side, or simply leave it alone and let them fight internally. A lieutenant general asked suddenly. Warring States glanced at the lieutenant general and shook his head silently. The Crane on the side said calmly, what we are thinking about now is not how many people they will die, but how much turmoil it will cause after this battle is over. The historical text of the road sign is the existence that all pirates dream of. If one side loses the battle and the other suffers heavy losses, those pirates will definitely pounce on it like wild dogs, intending to snatch the historical text of the road sign. At that time, the battle will not only take place near Zou, but will cover the entire New World, and even the entire world. At that time, I'm afraid the whole world will be in one ball. The lieutenant general nodded vaguely. So what we need most now is someone who can throw a powerful punch to stop the battle between the 2 4 emperor pirates, or directly annihilate one of them, so that the other force has the power to deter the pirates. The Warring States replied in a hurried tone. Hearing this, everyone in the office suddenly realized and nodded in agreement. Only the Crane heard the strangeness in the tone of the Warring States and looked at the Warring States. Do you have a suitable candidate? Warring States smiled bitterly and nodded helplessly. There are candidates, but I can't direct them at all. Crane lowered his head and thought for a moment, then frowned slightly and looked at the Warring States. You mean Dimensional Brigade? Yes, it's them. Warring States sighed and stood up. This is really impossible. Pass my order to send all the information about this battle to the Dimensional Brigade, and then let it be your fate. This riot, only they have the ability to quell it. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. 9 flowers. Everyone in the office was stunned for a moment, and then the echoes with complex expressions should be, and they all walked out of the room. The room gradually became quiet. Warring States stood by the window, looking at the Navy soldiers training in the distance. His eyes fluctuated, and his mood was very chaotic. When will the task of maintaining world peace be done by outsiders? Zhanguo said bitterly in his heart, and blamed himself for his own powerlessness, but at this moment, an idea suddenly appeared in Zhanguo's mind, but soon, Zhanguo glanced at a distance, shook his head, and the helplessness on his face became more and more obvious. The direction he was looking was Marijoa. It would be great if the 5 old stars were willing to take action. Warring States thought to himself. City of 7 Waters. Long before Sengoku decided to send the information to Roha, Roha had already received the news that Shanks and Auntie were at war. When seeing this news, Roha couldn't help but smiled helplessly. Originally, he didn't want to get involved in this matter. After all, there are 4 pieces of the historical text of the road sign, one in the hands of Ant, one in Zou, and one in the storage space after he annihilated Kaido, only the last piece missing. Since he didn't know the whereabouts of the fourth block, Roha didn't plan to start collecting the historical text of road signs, so there was no reason to participate in this battle. But now it's different. Shanks actually went to war. Roha didn't want Shanks and the Big Mom pirates to fight to the death. It would be fine if the Big Mom pirates failed miserably, but if the Red Hair pirates and someone he knew died, Roha wouldn't mind letting Big Mom pay the price. Chapter 292 Redhead vs. Big Mom. New World. The unprecedented battle of the world has been going on for 4 full hours, and the red firth of the Red Hair pirates is like an iron wall blocking the front of the huge fleet of the Big Mom pirates. In the sea between the two, more than a dozen battleships of the Big Mom pirates have sunk here, and thousands of pirates wailed in the water, and the whole sea was stained with blood. Facing the red-haired pirates whose members are all elites, the Big Mom pirates, which have always been known for their large numbers of people, finally encountered their nemesis. In the battle on the sea, the Big Mom pirates were completely unable to take advantage of the number of pirates. In the face of the red-haired pirates who were roaming and fighting, they could not form an encirclement, which meant that a small number of pirate ships had to be used to fight the red-haired pirates. With the quality at an absolute disadvantage, the losses of the Big Mom pirates have been expanding. Damn, it can't go on like this. Katakuri, you think of a way. Standing on the frontmost ship, using the biscuit soldiers as a meat shield, the cradle that was responsible for the protection of the fleet, his face was hideous, and the corners of his mouth were bloody and roared. With a broken look on his face. Under the command of Ben Beckman, the huge pirate ship just felt like a speedboat. It was agile and outrageous. It was always able to stand in the weakest part of the pirate fleet of the Big Mom pirates and easily nibble the fleet of the Big Mom pirates. In the absence of Auntie, the generals and cadres did not dare to leap into the sea to attack the red-haired pirates. As the most defensive cradle, it was a matter of course to undertake the task of guarding the fleet. However, even if Keligia is one of the 3-star desert generals, the bounty has already exceeded 500 million, deterring the sea, but you must know that he is facing an attack from the same 4 Emperor-level pirates. Facing the strange rhythm of the offensive of the red-haired pirates, Cricket couldn't tell how hard it was. I don't know how the other party organized the attack. The attack was so sharp that it was outrageous. Often a wave of attacks could shatter the layers of biscuit soldiers in front of him and crack his defense. And what really made Krarik's heart palpitated was not only that, of course he had heard of the name of the first sniper of the red-haired pirates, Jesus Bu, but after the actual contact, he knew just how terrifying Jesus Bu's sniping was. The domineering arrogance that can't be freed after being locked, the domineering arrogance that can be attached to the bullet, plus the precise sniping of the Jesus cloth that aims at the eyeball, Adam's apple and other deadly parts, make the cracker tired to deal with it, and many times, even he had to use his subordinates as human shields. The battle has continued so far, dozens of subordinates have died because of this, and the cradle is already close to its limit. How? What can I do? Katakuri, who replaced Auntie as the fleet commander, had red eyes and bloodshot eyes. After catching up, the red-haired pirates set off and sank a ship. Withdrawing back, the red-haired pirates followed, chasing the battleship in the rear and fighting desperately. Want to raid, but suffer from the fact that most of the cadres are those with fruit ability, and they don't dare to cross the sea at the risk of being beaten into the sea, and those cadres who are not fruit ability are too few, and if they go, they will die. This kind of feeling of watching a ship sink and countless companions die, but there is no way to do it, is driving Katakuri crazy. The only way to break the deadlock now is, Mom, hurry up, defeat that redhead. Katakuri looked anxiously at the battlefield of Bigmom and Shanks in the distance. However, the great battle on the sea in the distance is not something that will happen for a while. The strongest point of Bigmom lies in its powerful strength, physical defense that is not afraid of ordinary sharp blade slashes, and wide area attack of fruit ability. But in the face of the red-haired person who has a movement similar to the moon step, tossing and turning in the air, and delaying time, Auntie has always had a feeling that she has countless strengths, and the more she fights, the more anxious she becomes. A wide area attack is difficult for the redhead who is more flexible than her to hit. Even if he is lucky enough to hit a few times, it will not be able to cause effective damage to the redhead at all. Wanting to fight in close quarters, the red hair did not give her a chance to get entangled, and it was slippery like a loach. If they were on land, and the two had agreed to fight head-to-head, Shanks certainly wouldn't have fought so rudely, and the outcome was still unknown. Shanks, who had always regarded his companions as his life, and was repeatedly instructed by Ben Beckman, naturally would not fight too wildly, and firmly followed the delayed plan and dealt with Auntie. To be honest, this kind of procrastination fighting is very inconsistent with Shanks' fighting style, so that when he fights with Ant, he is also very uncomfortable. However, if the survival rate of the crew can be improved in this way, Shanks will of course not make a mess. When Ben Beckman and the others deal with the fleet of the Big Mom pirates, are they worried that there will be no chance for a heads-up? It's time to have a heart-to-heart duel. The balance of victory and defeat seems to be tilted towards the red hair pirates. However, both sides of the war seem to have forgotten something. Boom, boom, boom. The deafening explosion sounded in the distance, and the continuous roar even covered the sound of this fierce naval battle. The two sides in the battle were stunned for a while, then turned their heads and looked in the direction of the explosion. When he saw the huge fire in the kingdom of Zo on the back of the elephant, Shanks couldn't help but shrank his pupils and cursed. Damn it, forget those bastards. The battle with the Big Mom pirates was too close, and both sides of the battle forgot about it, wandering far away on the battlefield, wanting to fish in troubled waters. Now this situation is very obvious. Those forces who took advantage of the chaos and looting, when the two 4 Emperor-level pirate groups were unable to take advantage, attacked the country of Zo. Stop, kill all those bastards before 5.9. Shanks turned his head suddenly and looked at Bigmom with anger on his face. Okay, Bigmom was also provoked by these guys who dared to grab something in her hands, and agreed without hesitation. Shanks, who is also the 4th Emperor, grabbed something from her with his strength, and Bigmom was not so angry. But, what kind of things are these robbers who dare to rob her in her hands? Bigmom, who had been fighting with Shanks in the first place, immediately found a target to vent, and without hesitation, urged Thundercloud Zeus to fly in the direction of the country of Zowu. Behind her, Shanks stepped on the sky and overtook Bigmom in the blink of an eye, galloping away with a scream that ripped through the air. Shanks, really angry. Chapter 293 Audacious in the Extreme. A moment later, in the kingdom of Zuowu, the sword chi vertical and horizontal thousands of meters, the fire is like rain, the thunder is interspersed, two completely different tyrants are domineering, and they are in the kingdom. Whether it is a large pirate group with thousands of people or a powerful pirate with a bounty of more than 500 million, under the joint efforts of the 4 emperors, there is no difference between ordinary people who have no power to bind chickens, and in an instant they were burned to ashes by the anger of the two. The anger of the 4 emperors is not something they can bear at all. After solving the pirates who took advantage of the fire, Shanks and Bigmom glanced at each other vigilantly, and immediately kept holding a soldier from the kingdom of Zowu, and rushed to the secret room where the historical text of the road sign was hidden. However, when they felt outside the secret room, they both frowned in unison. The door of the secret room was wide open, extremely rich, and the disgusting smell of blood wafted out of the door along the stairs. Damn it! Shanks' heart tightened, and he quickly turned into an afterimage and rushed into the secret room. Bigmom didn't have time to think about it, and followed, but when Bigmom just walked into the door, he was still stunned for a moment. In the corridors, there are corpses lying on the ground everywhere. As far as the eye can see, there are corpses lying on the ground everywhere in the long corridor. Among them, there are pirates in shabby clothes and covered with tattoos, and there are also guards of the kingdom of Zowu in armor and warrior uniforms. At this moment, the two groups of people who intend to seize the historical text of the road sign and guard the historical text of the road sign are lying side by side. It can be seen that the number of pirates is several times that of the guards of the kingdom of Zou. Next to each guard's body, there are the bodies of several pirates, and the blood spreads on the ground. Just seeing such a scene, it is not difficult to imagine how tragic the battle was. Dozens of fur warriors, led by their two leaders, used their own flesh to firmly block the door of the secret room, fighting to the death with the invaders. However, the number of intruders was too large, and the tide-like offensive continued to hit the fur warriors. At the same time that one fur warrior died, the guards kept retreating. Until I retreated to the last secret room. Looking at the layers of pirate corpses in the secret room, Bigmom couldn't help narrowing his eyes. In the middle of the secret room, there is a hill that is 4 or 5 meters high. A mountain of corpses composed entirely of corpses. On the top of the mountain, Shanks looked at him tremblingly, leaning on his sword and standing upright on the corpse mountain. Duke Inuarashi, his eyes couldn't help turning red. At this time, the Duke of Inulan had marks of slashing and axe all over his body. His blue uniform was already in tatters, and the blood-red cloak behind him was falling straight down. That is the weight after the blood is stained red, so that the cloak no longer flutters. The helmet on his head was missing, and the blood-stained long hair covered Duke Inuarashi's eyes. Duke Inuarashi, who lowered his head, couldn't see the expression on his face, but on his body, there was still leaves an air of fury. MT. Momentum. X weight. Dao O. Momentum. Sean. Shanks stepped forward quickly and tested Duke Inuarashi's breath. Sure enough, there is still breathing. He's not dead. Hurry up and call the doctor. Shanks turned his head and shouted behind him. After being caught by him, the fur tribe warrior, who was wiping his tears at this time, suddenly gave a shudder, shouted, and ran out rolling and crawling. Shanks picked up Duke Inuarashi and laid him down. At this moment, Duke Inuarashi suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed Shanks by the collar. Shanks. Cat pit viper. He is behind. Duke Inuarashi was too weak, and he said this paragraph on and off after several paragraphs, with Shanks lying beside his mouth just heard clearly. Okay, I get it, take a good rest and don't fall asleep. The doctor will be here soon. Shanks urged, placing Duke Inuarashi's hand on his chest. Duke Inuarashi nodded weakly, with a lingering sadness on his face. Before he could sigh, Shanks hurriedly jumped off the corpse pile, and soon found the buried cat viper under the corpse behind. The injury degree of cat viper was slightly lighter than Duke Inuarashi, but even so, cat viper fell into a coma at this time. After placing the two side by side in the ventilation, Shanks stood up slowly with a gloomy face. Bigmom, this fight, I'll fight it later, now I'm going to find those bastards and kill him. Shanks lowered his face, full of murderous intent, which was breathtaking. Definitely find that group of mice. Bigmom turned his back to Shanks, looking at the center of the secret room, his face was also undisguised killing intent Q. In the center of the secret room, there is the only place that is not covered by the corpse. That was where the historical text of the road signs used to be placed, and now empty. Thinking of the nearly 1,000 subordinates who died in the sea outside, and the scars on their bodies from Shanks, Bigmom was going crazy at this moment. 4 emperors. Ruler of Cake Island. The ruler of many kingdoms. After paying so much, he even ended up fighting in person, actually. Was picked up cheap by others. Hee. Bigmom suddenly laughed in a low voice, a faint black air permeating his body. Interesting, these guys, the taste of roasting, must make me happy. Roast them. Bigmom babbled like a madman, and staggered away from 237 to open the secret room. At this time, her heart was filled with killing intent. This crazy feeling is even more crazy than Bigmom's greed. What a shame. After BIGMOM returned to the fleet, the red-haired pirates no longer entangled and retreated decisively. This peak battle has come to an end. The sudden departure of the Big Mom pirates made many people unclear about the situation, and even the naval fleet 100 miles away did not dare to act rashly. Don't look at the fierce fight between the red-haired pirates and the Big Mom pirates. In fact, it is the bottom crew who died. It is unknown whether the red-haired pirates died or not. The high-end combat power of both sides has no loss at all. In this case, naturally no one would foolishly think that they can take advantage of the fishermen. Everyone was confused and evacuated. Far away in the capital of Seven Waters, Roja, who had already assembled his members, was also confused by the sudden truce. After talking to Shanks, Roja hung up the phone with a trace of silence. This is really a courageous guy. He actually dares to do things under the eyes of the four emperors, and is not afraid of death. Looking at the members who were looking at him and waiting for news, Roja shook his head lightly. Let's go first, but don't leave the Seven Waters city recently. The battle is not over yet. Chapter 294 New Battlefield. As Roja said, the battle is indeed not over yet. This time, BIGMOM couldn't help being mad with anger, and even Shanks, who had always laughed and cursed and had a better temper, was madly angry. Just that unlike BIGMOM, Shanks was angry with himself, and he didn't protect the country of Zo, and even let two friends fall into the scene of serious injuries and dying. Although Duke Inuarashi and Boss Cat Viper survived successfully, both of them have been injured more or less. Not only will their strength be greatly reduced in the future, but their lifespan will be shortened by a few years. In addition, in the country of Zo, the guards and residents who suffered heavy losses made Shanks blame himself. Under such circumstances, the red-haired pirates and the Big Mom pirates unleashed all their energies and began to look for those guys who dared to steal under their noses. During this period, under Shanks' instructing, Ben Beckman began to reveal to the world that the historical text of the road sign had been stolen. Soon, the news that shocked the world spread at a very fast speed on the sea. Come on. After learning the news, BIGMOM wanted to intercept the news at first, but after her efforts were unsuccessful, she gave up. It's just that BIGMOM was still annoyed by Shanks' troubles in his heart. In her opinion, of course, this news is firmly blocked, and it is best that no one knows about it, but Shanks and she thinks are fundamentally different. Letting the world know the historical text of the road signs is a good thing for the country of Zou, and it can make the country of Zou no longer harassed by pirates. As for face, Shanks didn't care too much. On this sea, who would dare not give him some face? The news of the theft of the historical text of the road sign surprised everyone. While marveling at the courage of the thieves, various forces also began to search with joy. And their idea is also very simple. Since those people stole the historical text of the road sign, it means that they have a chance to find those people before the red hair pirates and the Big Mom pirates, kill them all. God unknowingly, the historical text of the road sign was appropriated for himself. By that time, even the four emperors would not be able to find them. I have to say that the joint efforts of all the pirates in the whole sea have a very obvious effect. In just 3 days, the group of pirates who stole the historical text of the sign was blocked by an underground organization in Dressrosa. It's just that the underground organization was only looking for people, but never thought about whether he could beat the group of thieves who forcibly broke into the forbidden land of the Kingdom of Zou. In less than half an hour, the underground organization was slaughtered, but the thieves were also discovered by members of the Big Mom pirates who were wandering nearby. Ha ha ha, it's really easy to come by. What you are carrying is the historical text of the road sign. The fourth son of BIGMOM, the Yellow Minister, Charlotte Owen, stopped in front of the thief, with her arms around her chest and an excited smile on her face. It's from the Big Mom pirates. Run. Hurry up and run away with the historical text. Take it for you. I don't want to die. The thieves didn't expect to be discovered by the four emperors' pirates so soon. All screamed and fled in all directions, and even the historical text of the road sign that they had worked so hard to get was thrown on the ground. "Want to go, you guys, but you're so angry with your mother. If you let you go, I won't have to live." Looking at the pirates who were running away, Charlotte Owen grinned, and the smile was eerie. He stretched out his hand and pointed a finger in the air. A running pirate only felt his feet get hot for a while, screamed in pain, and fell to the ground. Immediately, the members of the Big Mom pirates who were caught up were nailed to the ground. Superior. This is also the fruit ability of Charlotte Owen, the hot fruit. It can instantly heat objects, and it can also heat itself up. Facing the cadre-level combat power of the four emperors, all the pirates were wiped out in less than a minute. "Finally got it. Ha ha ha, my mother will definitely praise me." Charlotte Owen fondled the historical text of the road sign with joy. After a while, looking at the noisy ordinary residents around, Charlotte Owen's face became cold and he no longer hesitated. "Take it away." With a cold wave, the subordinates behind him immediately began to prepare to carry the historical text of the road sign. Listening to the increasingly noisy voice in the distance, Charlotte Owen couldn't help but feel anxious. There are too many forces in the vicinity to search for the historical text of road signs. Although most of them are local chickens and dogs, there are still some who can threaten his existence. Therefore, the sooner you leave, the better. It is good. You, call Mom and ask Mom to send reinforcements. Owen pointed to a subordinate and ordered. But at this time, on a street corner not far away, a dozen pirates suddenly appeared. "Yo, I didn't expect the historical text to be here." The man in the lead had a musket around his waist, a cigarette in his mouth, his hands in his pockets, and he looked like he was hanging around. Step by step, he walked towards the historical text of the road sign. From the beginning to the end, he didn't even look at Owen, as if Owen was not worthy of his direct gaze. "Ben Beckman." Gritting his teeth, he whispered the man's name in front of him, and Owen's heart gradually sank. The vice captain of the Red Hair Pirates, Ben Beckman. A character of this level is not something he can resist at all. But even if she knew it was not low, Charlotte Owen still took out a big knife, and the whole body was hot, and there was even a layer of flaming flames on the blade. "Oh, do you still want to fight?" Ben Beckman raised his eyebrows and glanced at Owen with a faint look of surprise on his face. "Going back is to die, why don't I try to kill you?" Charlotte Owen replied coldly, holding a knife in both hands. If the ant found out that he was timid before the battle, and gave up the historical text of the road sign, I am afraid that when Owen returns, it will be his death. Instead, give it a try. The next moment, Owen suddenly jumped up and chopped off. Hot slash. The battle begins again. A signal flare continued to appear over Dressrosa. The radio waves of the phone bug appeared all over the island. Dressrosa has become the new battlefield of the four emperors. Tens of thousands of pirates flock here. Chapter 295 After break. Dressrosa was caught in the chaos of war. The beautiful, warm and elegant towns in the past no longer exist at this time. After the appearance of the standard history text, countless pirates, like sharks who asked about the smell of blood, flocked towards Dressrosa. In just a few hours, dozens of large and small pirate ships arrived in Dressrosa, and a vast number of pirates rushed towards the town with a smile. Big Mom and Shanks arrived one after another, and fought in the sky above Dressrosa. The members of the Big Mom pirates also met people from the Red Hair Pirates on the ground. The members of the Big Mom pirates, who were trying to wash away their former shame, almost roared at the members of the red-haired pirates, looking like they would never die. Boom boom boom. In the sky and the ground, the continuous roaring sound resounded through the entire island like a hong zhang da lu. In the center of the town, the two four emperor pirates fought in blood around the historical text of the road sign. Seeing that the four emperor pirates did not leave the historical text of the road sign at all this time, the pirates who knew that they had no chance for the time being turned around and rushed to every corner of the town. This battle is a rare opportunity for those pirates. In the past, they would not have dared to loot recklessly in Dressrosa, but this time, with the 4 emperors taking the lead, and countless pirates disturbing them, they are taking the opportunity to loot. Screams, laughter, and angry roars echoed in every corner of the town. The smoke of gunpowder rose all over the town, and the raging fires dyed the sky red. How could this be? Damn pirates! Standing in the royal palace at the highest point of Dressrosa, the current king of Dressrosa, Liku Dold III, looked at the town and the riots in the distance, with an extremely angry expression on his face. Look! Before, because of the theft of the historical text of the road sign, there were hundreds of pirates in Dressrosa, but fortunately Dressrosa's army was still strong. Under the order of King Liku under the circumstances, a large number of troops patrolled the town 24 hours a day, barely maintaining order. However, now, Dressrosa has become a battlefield. Damn pirates! What did they take Dressrosa for? They must be expelled. King Liku roared with a grim expression on his face. But even so, a deep sense of powerlessness still haunts King Riku's heart. In this battle, the mere Dressrosa could not intervene at all. Even if the 2-4 emperor-level pirate groups do not move, the other dozen or so pirate groups are not something that Dressrosa can match. Your Majesty, what are we going to do? Your Majesty, order the attack. Even if I die, I will let them know where Dressrosa is acting recklessly. The general is right. Your Majesty, order. The Imperial Guard is ready to be dispatched at any time. Defend Dressrosa with blood. Many ministers standing behind King Liku spoke one after another. Although some people advocated retreat and some people advocated war, but without exception, their faces were full of extremely angry expressions. No one can bear it. Outsiders are wanton in their own hometown, burning, killing and looting. You can't fight. If the army is dead, who will protect the rest of the people? King Liku said through gritted teeth. Hearing this, a minister hurried forward 2 steps and said loudly, Your Majesty, now we can only ask for help from the world government and the navy. With our strength, we can't stop this riot at all. King Liku was silent for a while, then shook his head with a wry smile. Do you think the navy would dare to come here with 2-4 emperor pirates here? Besides, don't you think it's strange that Dressrosa's pirates are so active recently? Why haven't the navy come over? Hearing King Liku's words, everyone was stunned for a moment, and then expressions of despair appeared on their faces. Yes, even if the navy is advocating to maintain justice and protect the people, if the 2-4 emperors are here, I am afraid that the navy will not come to die in vain. In short, Dressrosa was abandoned. We can only rely on ourselves. King Liku sighed, turned around and ordered, organize an army and evacuate all the people to the mountains and forests to the east. What about the city? Someone asked. Hearing this, King Liku had a gloomy look on his face, and said in a low voice, the city. Give up first. As long as people are alive, it's better than anything, and things like cities will always be recreated. Even so, everyone remained silent. It is easier said than done to rebuild a city. I am afraid it will empty the entire Dressrosa financial resources. Not good. Not good. Just as everyone was silent, a palace soldier suddenly opened the door and rushed in. Furiously thinking about what it looks like, what kind of style. If the country, a minister reprimanded. Well, don't talk about it. What's the use of talking about it now? King Liku waved his hand and motioned the minister to shut up. Finally, he lifted the tired soldier who was kneeling on the ground and asked nervously, what happened? Your Majesty, it's not good. There, a large number of pirates are coming to the palace. A large group. King Liku frowned and quickly asked, how many people are there and how is their strength? The number of people are about 800 people, consisting of 4 pirate groups, of which 1 person has a bounty of more than 500 million, and 6 people have a bounty of more than 100 million. The soldier replied without hesitation. What? How come there are so many people? 500 million. In the huge room, there was a sound of exclamation, and panic spread throughout the room. There is a pirate commander with a bounty of up to 500 million, and the pirates under his banner can never be a mob. A pirate gang of this level is simply not something that the palace with scattered troops can resist. Your Majesty, what should we do? Someone asked in a panic. King Riku closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and when he opened his eyes were full of determination. Pass my order. All non-combatants in the palace are evacuated to the east, and the palace guards and I stay behind. Your Majesty, you can't. Think twice, Your Majesty, if something happens to you, Dressrosa will be finished. I have made up my mind. King Riku picked up the weapon beside him and turned to look at the commander of the self-defense force who had been silent. Taigu repent. Execute the order. Follow your orders. Taigu, with a burly stature and a resolute face, nodded silently, ready to die for the king in his heart. Chapter 296 Roha arrives. Upon learning of King Riku's order, the entire Dressrosa Palace X fell into turmoil. Under the leadership of King Riku, nearly 1,000 soldiers of King Riku's army, wearing armor and holding weapons, came to their posts with solemn expressions and began to set up defense lines. The servants, ministers, and female relatives hurriedly packed their things and ran around the palace in a frenzy. However, just when all the ordinary people were about to escape, there was one person who insisted on not leaving. You guys go with Rebecca, I want to stay here. The speaker was a short-haired girl who looked to be about 18 or 19 years old. She was wearing a purple princess dress, bare feet as white as jade, sitting in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window hugging her knees, looking at the dark torrent that was gradually approaching in the distance. Her back was lonely, but with a hint of determination. Princess Violet, please come with us. Yes, Princess. The palace can't take it anymore, please leave quickly. Sister, don't leave me behind. The guards who were responsible for escorting important people to evacuate, persuaded one after another, and Rebecca, who was held in her arms by one of the guards, even cried. Don't you understand what I said? You guys, immediately, take Rebecca, go, Violet suddenly shouted with her back to everyone. The explosion of Violet's breakthrough made everyone stunned, just as the guard stepped forward to forcibly take Violet away. Swish. Violet took out a dagger out of nowhere and stuck it on the ground beside him. You are taking a step forward, and I will die for you to see. The guard stopped immediately, frowning at the ignorant girl. Princess Violet, you. Boom. A sudden roar came from outside, and the ground of the palace couldn't help shaking. Everyone shook their bodies and looked out the window in surprise. It turned out that I didn't know when, among the pirates, there were actually several strong men who had left the brigade and took the lead outside the palace to start the attack. The fierce offensive caused great damage to the palace immediately, and even a large crack appeared on the walls of the palace. Captain, let's go. It's too late if you don't go. Someone urged behind him. The captain of the guard glanced at Violet, who had been turning his back to him, and then at the ministers waiting at the door, as well as the young Rebecca, with a struggling look on his face. Finally he gave Violet a deep look. Princess Violet, take care. After speaking, the captain of the guard walked out without looking back, took the crying Rebecca, and hurriedly disappeared into the corridor. The room finally quieted down, except for the screams of killing outside the window, which still came. I don't know when. Violet's hand tightly clasped the corner of his skirt. The once bright eyes were full of tears, and big tears dripped down the face and fell on the luxurious skirt. Gradually dyed the skirt. Sister, what should I do? When you are gone, my brother-in-law also went to the city to save people. I can't survive, and my father is about to die. Woo-woo-woo, sister, Dressrosa is finished. What to do? Sister, tell me, what should Wright do? Who can save me? Save Dressrosa. Violet lay on her knees, crying bitterly, and the sound of crying echoed in the silent room. I saved you, are you willing to promise me? Suddenly a man's voice appeared behind Violet with a frivolous tone. Who? Violet shuddered, then suddenly picked up the dagger beside him, turned around and stood up. When she saw the man in front of her, she couldn't help frowning. with a vigilant look on her face, and tightly clenched the dagger in her hand. Appearing in front of her was a man in a black suit with a blood-colored longsword slung around his waist, exuding a touch of domineering. After he appeared, the air in the room seemed to congeal, and a heavy pressure lingered in Violet's heart. A desire to kneel on the ground and bow to the man in front of him appeared unprovoked in Violet. Wright's mind. Taking a closer look at the other party's appearance, Violet's eyes showed a faint look of doubt. This man, so familiar. Although he felt that he had seen this man in his heart, Violet couldn't remember who this man was for a while. Vigilance is enough. The man smiled and shook his head, as if he didn't see the dagger in Violet's hand. He slowly stepped forward, stood beside Violet, and faced out the window. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. 9 flowers, who the hell are you? Violet took 2 steps back vigilantly and distanced himself from this man, his doubts intensified. This man is so abnormal. Yes, it is so abnormal. The screams of killing were so loud outside, and the sound of the explosion was deafening. Even looking at it from a distance, you could still see the battle between the 2 four emperors above the sky. However, there was no fluctuation on the man's face, and he even said that apart from the confident smile on his face, no matter what sounds came from outside, the man would not change in any way. It was as if everything was under his control. Hey, did you hear? Who are you? What are you doing here? What is your purpose? Violet asked, but Violet was startled by his own voice as soon as he said it. Is that still her voice? The voice is so small and pitiful. The tone of his speech was not questioning at all, but coquettish to the little girl. If you want to say what to do, I can only tell you that I am here to end this war. The man said with a slight hook on the corner of his mouth. End war. PFF'd. Even if the situation was so tense, Violet couldn't help being amused by the other party's words. Does this person want to end this war? Did he figure out who was involved in this war? Not to mention the thousands of pirates who were raging in the town, the 2 four emperor pirates who fought fiercely were already the top forces in the world. Now, someone actually wants to end the war between these 2 four emperor pirates. Is it crazy? Before she knew it, Violet lost her initial vigilance, because she had put this man into the ranks of lunatics. Seeing the man's still indifferent face, Violet couldn't help laughing and said, "It's just you. Why do you end their war?" Why, The man pondered for a moment, nodded slightly, and raised his chin toward the window. Is it enough for them alone? Outside the window, above the sky, countless shadows fell, and the momentum was amazing. Chapter 297 Total Repression. Outside, Violet was stunned for a moment, then turned around and looked at Roja's eyes. On the ground, the fire of war is still there, and the smoke of gunpowder is everywhere. Nearly, the offensive and defensive battle of the palace continues, and the battle cry is repeated. Seeing this, Violet couldn't help frowning, and looked at the man beside him suspiciously. This guy can't be a real lunatic, how can anyone? But at this moment, there was a sudden burst of screams from the sky. Violet's shoulders trembled slightly, and he quickly raised his head to look at the sky. That's... Violet couldn't help shrinking his pupils and exclaimed when he saw the abnormality in the sky. In the sky, dense black shadows fell down with the sound of howling wind. A golden streamer and a white afterimage cut through the sky at an extremely fast speed, and inserted straight into the battlefield of the 4 emperors in the sky. A figure flashing with blue electric light, with the roar of thunder, burst in from the west of the town. Wherever the figure passed, there were thunderstorms, heavy electricity and light, covering a 100-meter power grid, and an entire block was suppressed in an instant. The pitch-black long snake like a dragon tumbled endlessly in the town. Wherever it passed, the house collapsed. The trees are broken, and there is no enemy of unity. An azure streamer galloped from the west side of the town, and wherever it passed, the sword light flashed and the hurricane whistled. In Violet's line of sight, an 8-meter-tall half-giant pirate actually had his head cut off without even holding on for a second in front of this figure. It was not until the two figures dashed into the town for 100 meters that the dense black shadows in the sky landed on the ground. Boom, 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 boom. A series of muffled noises came, and in the smoke and dust, one soldier after another in dark armor walked out from the broken earth with the momentum of destroying everything. Attacked. The bullets fell like rain, and the attack was even denser than the rainstorm. In an instant, the enemy standing at the forefront, the iron-blooded warrior, ignored the mourning of the pirates and began to sweep the town. Those people are... Violet felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity in his heart when he saw the mysterious force that suppressed the riots in the entire kingdom with the momentum of thunder. At this time, more than a dozen black-armored soldiers landed near the palace and began to attack the pirates. Driven by curiosity, Violet subconsciously used his ability to stare at the fruit, and used his clairvoyance to look at the battlefield. When she saw the black-armored warriors who were walking in the town and slaughtering pirates like a hawk, she couldn't help trembling, and she subconsciously screamed out she was directly scared to stop using the ability. That's Dimension Brigade. Violet's face suddenly an uncontrollable surprise. The Dimension Brigade is here. And it seems that the Dimension Brigade is still on the opposite side of the pirates. Dressrosa is saved. And many more. That man just say, to save Dressrosa. Suddenly thinking of what the person beside him just said, Violet's body stiffened for a moment, and then he turned his head tremblingly and looked around. The man who had always had a faint smile on his face finally reunited with the person he remembered. You are Roja. Lord Roja, Violet said in a trembling voice with excitement, her eyes glowing with excitement. Finally recognized. I thought I was so worthless. Roja hooked the corner of his mouth and looked at Violet with playful eyes. No, how is that possible? I just forgot. Violet replied in a hurry, and at the end, she even lowered her head a little embarrassedly, rubbing her fingers in shame. Thinking that he actually suspected Roja just now, and made fun of him, Violet just wanted to find a hole to burrow into. Okay, just stay here, Dressrosa will be saved soon. Roja patted Violet's head with a smile, and then disappeared in place. Although the android warriors and the strong men brought by Roja can completely solve the riot, Roja still intends to help. For every moment of delay, several or more people will die, which is the value of living fans. Thinking of the people who died in this riot, Roja was heartbroken and wanted to kill all the pirates in an instant. Under the hatred, Roja will naturally not keep his hands, and the shot is the ultimate move. At the same time that Roja appeared above the palace, the dazzling sword energy swept across the sky and slashed towards the place where the pirates were most densely located below. The sword light as bright as a crescent moon, with the momentum of cutting off everything, flew down at an extreme speed. This sword fell from the sky and cut across the ground. In an instant, a terrifying abyss that was dozens of meters long was cut out of the pirates' array. However, Roja's attack was far from over. Chi. The blade slid through the air, his arms turned into phantoms, and Roja, who stood above the sky, overlooking the entire battlefield, spread destruction to the entire battlefield at the speed of several sword chi per second. The sword chi slashed through the body, and the friction sound of cutting the ground resounded in all directions. The sudden terrorist attack completely stunned the pirates and the King Liku army, and completely lost their desire to fight. Unlike the pirates who were fleeing in all directions, after seeing the figure in the sky like a demon descending from the sky, King Liku, regardless of his injuries, knelt to the ground one after another, with tears in his eyes, and excitedly kowtowed to Roja. They finally don't have to die. In the palace, Violet, who was standing by the window, also looked at Roja in the sky with adoring eyes. His eyes were obsessed, and he did not move. 0.4. Powerful, handsome, easygoing, plus saving her homeland, and being a hero to save beauty, such Roja simply meets all Violet's standards. Hate, what am I thinking? Violet covered her face shyly, embarrassed. But at this time, the first sentence Roja said when she just appeared unprovoked in her mind. Saved you, are you willing to promise yourself? Close black lens bracket. These words echoed in Violet's mind over and over again, lingering. Is he joking? Or isn't he? What if he's not joking? Violet couldn't help but start to think about it a lot. For some unknown reason, her face turned even redder. Chapter 298 Can't Understand the Golden Glitter. In just a few minutes, the palace area became quiet. Nearly 1,000 pirates who attacked the palace successively turned into immobile corpses within a few minutes. Including the big pirates with a bounty of 500 million, they will all be destroyed. The palace area fell into an unprecedented silence. Including King Liku, all the people raised their heads in unison, looking at Roha in the sky. Their eyes were complicated, and expressions of fear and worship appeared on everyone's faces. King Liku, prepare well and clean up the mess. Roha turned to look at King Liku, said loudly, and then turned around and flew towards the city center. Looking at Roha's figure, he cut through the sky and flew straight to the battlefield of the four emperors. Looking at the pirate corpses all over the place, the people who survived the disaster were a little stunned for a while. Is the battle over? Those pirates who could slaughter them back and forth several times died just like that. A few minutes ago, all the people were still determined to die, trying to stop the pirates with their lives. However, in the blink of an eye, countless sword chi descended from the sky. When the sword chi dissipated, those vicious pirates died directly. This situation made some people in 08 feel a little trance, and it felt very unreal. After a few minutes, the trembling opening was made. It's over. This sentence seems to have ignited the complicated emotions in everyone's heart, and the entire palace is boiling. Alive, survive, I survived. Someone fell to his knees, shouting loudly, 2 lines of hot tears falling down his face. Mom, I survived. I don't have to die. Wife, did you and your daughter see it? I can finally go home. Above the palace walls, countless warriors roared loudly, and the feeling of regaining their lives made each of them fall into ecstasy. King Liku tore off a piece of cloth, casually bound the deep wound on his shoulder, leaning on the city wall, looking at the delighted soldiers with a smile on his face. However, who is that person? King Liku said to himself with some doubts. Because Roha was suspended in the height of more than 100 meters just now, King Riku did not see Roha's appearance clearly. Hey, did you see what that person looked like just now? King Liku asked the soldier beside him. No, it's too far away for me to see clearly. Me too, I can't see clearly at all, but then again, that person's strength is really strong. QBU_. Hey, what do you guys think? Is he Hawkeye? I feel like the #1 swordsman in the world has such strength. W. It's possible, but I heard that Hawkeye has always been alone and unfriendly. Could it be that you have had friendship with Hawkeye, Your Majesty? Approximately 7 U. How is it possible? I haven't even seen him before. King Liku gave a wry smile. How could someone like the world's greatest swordsman have an intersection with him? Hey, that's weird. Then who is he? That is it the enemy of those pirates? Seeing the denial of King Liku, everyone was a little confused. He is Roha of the Dimensional Brigade. Suddenly, a crisp and melodious female voice came from a distance. Everyone looked back and saw Violet's slender figure, slowly following the stairs to the city wall. Lord Princess. Princess Violet. Violet, why are you here? Wait, Liku Wang just wanted to ask why Violet didn't evacuate, but he reacted immediately. His eyes widened, and he exclaimed, who did you just say that person? Luoya. Is he really that Roha? Of course, who else can be besides him? Violet snorted and replied proudly, but after she finished speaking, she remembered something, and 2 blushes appeared on her cheeks again. King Riku didn't notice Violet's abnormality, but his hands trembled with excitement, and suddenly grabbed Violet's shoulders. Then did he say what he was here for? Father, Roha said to end this war. Violet replied blushing. It really is. King Riku shook Violet's shoulder excitedly, and immediately walked around the city wall, waving his arms non-stop. Ha ha ha, Dressrosa is saved. Dressrosa is saved. King Liku's excited expression infected everyone on the city wall, and the surprised expression appeared on everyone's face again. If someone else said that to end this war with 2-4 Emperor-level pirates participating in the war, I am afraid no one would believe it. But if the Dimensional Brigade that annihilated the Beast Pirates said, it would be different. The Dimension Brigade really has this ability. Soldiers, follow me. Support the Dimension Brigade and protect our people. King Liku shouted. Yes. The officers and soldiers echoed loudly, the sound was rolling, and the morale was high. At this moment, in their hearts, the Dimensional Brigade has become a savior-like existence. Roha on the other side did not know that because of his random actions, he gained a large number of loyal fans in the future. At this time, he has come to the square in the center of the town. As soon as he arrived at the square, Roha saw Gilgamesh and Accelerator guarding the historical text of the road sign. On both sides of the square, the Red Hair Pirates and the Big Mom Pirates occupy one end respectively and are hostile to each other. Although both of them were standing on both sides of the square unharmed, compared to Shanks, Bigmom's injuries were significantly heavier, and there was even a trace of blood on the corner of Bigmom's mouth that had not yet been wiped off. This is also Roha's order. Gilgamesh and Accelerator must stop the fight between the two, but they are never allowed to hurt Shanks, as long as they force Bigmom back. Of course, it seems that Gilgamesh and Accelerator's understanding of retreat is somewhat different from what Roha imagined. This is so bloody, how can we talk about it in a while? Roha twitched the corners of his mouth, a little speechless. Yo, Roha, you really came. Shanks sat on a block at any time, and thought Roha waved happily. I'll talk to you later. Roha responded with a smile and waved, then turned around and looked at Gilgamesh. You two go to the town to clear the pirates, as soon as possible, don't hurt ordinary people. Got it. Gilgamesh and the two nodded, and they soared into the air one after another, flying towards the place where the town was rioting. It was not until Gilgamesh and Accelerator walked that Roha crossed the center of the square and came to the front of the Big Mom Pirates. Pirates, Roha pressed the handle of the knife with his right hand and looked directly at Bigmom. Bigmom, do you still want to fight? Chapter 299 The Mysterious Man Who Suddenly Appeared. Do you still want to fight? Roha's voice echoed in the square filled with gunpowder smoke, piercing Bigmom's heart like a sharp sword. Although he had long been suspicious of Gilgamesh's attitude just now, when he saw Roha and Shanks greeting him, he questioned himself so rudely, and Bigmom's face sank. Originally, a red-haired pirate group had already become a rival to them, and if a dimensional brigade was added. In Bigmom's heart, for the first time, the thought of retreating appeared. What do you want? Big Mom responded with a gloomy face, and the subordinates behind him had different expressions and flickering eyes. On the one hand, everyone in the Big Mom Pirates felt uncomfortable with Roha's domineering attitude. But on the other hand, they were worried that Big Mom and Roha would break down and fight. When that time comes, I'm afraid none of them will want to leave alive. Gilgamesh, who is standing there, can kill everyone except the ant with a single stroke of the sword, not to mention that the Dimensional Brigade actually appeared this time. 3 or more cadres. That's right, before the Big Mom Pirates gathered, they had seen Masaka Makoto and Artoria who were raging through the town, and some of them were mercilessly beheaded by the two for killing civilians. How many people were killed by Arturia and the two of them, the ant didn't ask, let alone ask. What's the use of asking? Could she be the enemy of the Dimensional Brigade because of the death of a few scoundrels? If the cadre died, the ant might be interested in talking with Roha about compensation. After all, the two have cooperated a lot so far, and the relationship is not bad. In this situation, can this partnership continue? How about exchanging this historical text of the road sign with your historical text of the road sign? Roja said what he had already thought about. What do you mean? The aunt raised her brows with a look of surprise on her face. This piece of road sign history text, we share, each person rubbing a copy, and then you take out your piece. Roja took the words and said with a smile. It's that simple. Aren't you afraid I'll lie to you? Aunt replied subconsciously. But just after he finished speaking, Bigmom saw Roja's playful eyes, stunned in his heart, and nodded. I see, that's it. Cheat. It doesn't exist at all. As long as the aunt is not alone, the Dimensional Brigade will always find her, and then kill her. Aunt naturally understood this truth, so she did not continue to talk. Then I'll go and talk to Shanks. Roja nodded, turned and walked towards the array of the red hair pirates. Say it. Auntie stared at Roja's back, her eyes gloomy. Bigmom suddenly discovered that the Dimension Brigade, no, or should be said to be Roja, his friendship with the red-haired pirates is far deeper than he thought. Such an important thing, it is enough to just say it. But in a blink of an eye, the aunt was relieved. With the ability of the Dimensional Brigade and the relationship with the red-haired pirates, it is completely possible to unite and annihilate them, but Roja did not do so, but gave both parties a successful step down. I have to say, at this time Bigmom I am grateful to Roja. Yo, our big hero is back. As soon as Roja walked in, Shanks greeted him with a smile. What hero? Don't you know what I look like? Roja spread his shoulders, made a funny gesture, and immediately hugged Shanks. Is everyone okay? Roja looked at the members of the Red Hair Pirates with some worry. It's okay. It's just those trash fish. How could I hurt this uncle? That is, we are much stronger than the pirate group led by that girl. Roja boy, if you come a little later, maybe I can kill a few more. How can a few? I can kill at least 10 more. Fuck you, you bastard almost lost your head. If I hadn't rescued you, you would have died long ago, and 10 fingers. Ha 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 ha. Looking at the red-haired pirates who were covered in blood, but still able to laugh at each other, Roja was relieved, and the burden on his heart was finally put down. It's fine. When this incident is over, I'll invite everyone to drink. Good. I want to drink your liquor. That's right, Baiju. The boss got a small bucket from the Whitebeard pirates last time, and I took a sip and let these bastards rob it all. This time, I must drink it. The people of the red-haired pirates cheered loudly. Feeling the friendliness of everyone, Roja smiled, turned around and told Shanks his decision. Of course, as a think tank. Ben Beckman stayed by the redhead's side and listened. However, the strange thing is that for some reason, when Roja was talking, Ben Beckman kept looking at Roja with strange eyes, and his palm was still on the gun at his waist. You want to collect the historical text of road signs? After hearing what Roja said, Shanks frowned and looked at Roja. Do you want to go to Ralph Drew? Actually, I've always wanted to ask, but I haven't found a chance. Roja didn't answer Shanks' words, but instead asked, what the hell is hiding in Ralph Drew? I don't know, Shanks replied without hesitation. Don't know. Roja raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise. Yeah, Shanks nodded and explained. You also know that I was just a trainee on the ship, and when I arrived at Ralph Drew, Captain Roger seemed to know something, and he didn't let anyone follow him. One person went to the interior of Ralph Drew, so I have no idea what was inside Ralph Drew at all. Quote. So that's the case, that means Rayleigh doesn't know Ralph's secret either. Roja nodded thoughtfully. At the end, Roja looked up and said, there is probably something I want in Ralph Drew, so. It's okay. Shanks interrupted Roja very simply, and smiled freely. I didn't want to do anything to the Big Mom pirates. Since we have nothing to lose here, then this is the case. Underscore. Just remember to take me with you when you go to Ralph Drew, you boy. Good. Feeling Shanks' unreserved trust, Roja's heart rose a little bit of warmth. Around, Roja waved in the direction of Bigmom, and was about to greet Auntie over. Who? History text. Looking for death. One after another, exclamations sounded around the square, and before the words fell, in the array of the red-haired pirates and the Big Mom pirates, one after another terrifying attacks suddenly came out. However, their goal is not each other, but the center of the square. Next to the historical text of the road sign, at some point, a mysterious man in black and masked appeared. Moreover, his hand has been pressed on the historical text of the road sign. Chapter 300. Ben Beckman. Boom boom boom. The deafening explosion sounded again in the square, gathering the attacks of 2 Emperor-level pirate groups, and the destructive power caused was beyond imagination. In the center of the entire square, the ground with a radius of tens of meters shattered and collapsed in an instant, and countless smoke and dust billowed up into the sky, and the entire Dressrosa trembled. HMPH, the guy who doesn't know what to do, actually wants to steal the historical text. That's right, don't even look at who is present, you dare to do it, it's really courting death. If this wave of fire continues, that fool may have been beaten to pieces. Everyone in the square looked at the smoke and dust that filled the center of the square with disdain. 2 Emperor-level pirate groups were present, and they dared to come up and steal things, they didn't know whether to live or die. Hey, then again, is the historical text of the road sign okay? Don't break it, someone suddenly said. Should be alright. Why don't someone go take a look? Hearing this, the people in the square looked at each other left and right, with expressions of apprehension on their faces, especially the members of the Big Mom pirates were the most disturbed. If this smashes the historical text of the road sign, I am afraid that the ant can tear them apart alive. I'll go take a look, Roja said lightly and stepped forward. Swish. At this moment, a 313 shadow suddenly emerged from the smoke and dust, and ran towards the distance at an astonishing speed. Grip the grass. Not dead. How is that possible? Under this kind of attack, the mysterious man did not die, and he was able to run so fast, which was beyond everyone's expectations. Immediately, a few people wanted to catch up, but they only took a few steps. Seeing that Roja, Shanks and the others did not speak, they still stopped. No, suddenly, Roja's face froze, and he waved his sleeves sharply at the smoke in the center of the square. A wind and waves rose out of thin air, and in an instant, the smoke and dust in the center of the square were blown away. When they saw the situation in the center of the square, the surrounding people once again made an uncontrollable cry of exclamation, and then an unprecedented rage rose in everyone's hearts. Road sign history text. Gone. That bastard stole it. Chase. Everyone chase after me. Kill him. Don't come back without killing him. Bursts of roars echoed on the square, this time without anyone's command, everyone moved and began to run wildly. Mian. Smash the walls and make your way through the town. Jump on the roof, jump over the houses. Tilda with wings on its back, it flies above the sky. Everyone took out 200% of their strength and began to run wildly in the town, vowing to follow the historical text of the landmark, and then kill the daring little thief. Otherwise, the 2 dignified 4 Emperor-level pirates were actually snatched away from under their noses. If this were to spread out, where would everyone's faces go? Among the crowd, Roja, Shanks, and Bigmom took the lead. However, the actual situation was beyond everyone's expectations. The mysterious black-clothed man's speed was beyond imagination. Even the most agile and swift Shanks couldn't catch up. He could only watch the other person's figure go away. The sea is in front of him, he can't run away. Bigmom, who fell behind, shouted, his face extremely gloomy. Sure enough, when the man in black pulled the distance from 300 meters to 500 meters, he finally ran to the edge of the island, and in front of him was the boundless sea. Ha 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 ha, damn it, let's see where you're going this time. I am exhausted, how can this bastard run like this? Don't let me catch him, or I'll cut off his feet. Then his feet must be gone. The sea is in front of him. He can still play that run. Unless he can run on the sea. Grass the grass, that bastard is running at sea. Just when everyone who had just taken a breath was discussing how to deal with this mysterious man, they found that the mysterious man actually rushed straight to the sea. Then, run at sea. Run farther and farther. This scene made many people drop their jaws. The person who said, unless he can run on the sea, just wanted to slap himself a few times. Seeing the other person's figure disappearing into the sea level, Roha, Shanks, and Bigmom stood on the cliff by the sea, their faces uncertain. Let's unleash the power together, and definitely take him back. Roha said in a low voice. Definitely, I will absolutely smash him to pieces. Bigmom gritted his teeth and roared in a low voice. Before she finished speaking, she turned her head and shouted at her subordinates. Go get the boat ready. Go to sea. Find him for me. Then, kill him. On the other side, Shanks also walked among the red-haired pirates, and began to give orders with a gloomy face. For the historical text of the road sign, Shanks didn't have much desire, but he was robbed by so many people, especially what Roha wanted. Even Shanks couldn't hang on his face. After a while, the members of the Big Mom Pirates left the beach and rushed towards the place where the boat was parked. Okay, it's time for us to go too. Shanks clapped his hands and shouted. You wait. Suddenly, Ben Beckman stood up and pressed Shanks' hand. Walking out at the same time as him, there were also 4 or 5 cadres of the red-haired pirates. They didn't say a word and walked forward silently. Then, surround Roha. Wait, what's the situation? Shanks was stunned when he saw the actions of several people. When he saw Beckman pull out a gun and point it at Roha, his expression suddenly became anxious, and he stepped forward to pull Beckman and others. But before he could go out, Shanks was dragged by Lackey. Boss, you wait, Beckman must have his reasons. Lackey discouraged. What reason do you need to do this? That's Roha. Shanks shouted anxiously. Are you crazy, Beckman? What are you doing? What if he wasn't? Beckman roared suddenly and sharply. What? Shanks was stunned for a moment, then murmured as if he didn't hear clearly. I said, what if he wasn't Roha? Beckman repeated without looking back, but his face became more and more gloomy. Click. Beckman slowly opened the safety of the gun and pointed to Roha's forehead. Tell me, who are you?